Okay, it's 5 after. Looking through, it's going to be difficult to take an informal roll call on this.
I'm trying.
I know.
I've got to do an official one anyway, so.
I'm pulling up the agenda on my own.
Who's that? Was that her?
Yes. Mr. Ford, did you say something?
No, but I'm probably, given the importance of the main agenda today, I'm probably going to move in favor of pushing regional reports and standing committee reports to the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Just give everyone fair warning. I'm obviously open to suggestions, objections, all that.
Well, I'm going.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Madam Secretary.
I'm also giving everyone fair warning that I am going to be moving to strike any regional reports for which there was not a written report and invite those regional reps to send a written report to be attached to the minutes. I'm not a stenographer. The rules of our party is that written reports are submitted in advance and that the regional time is for supplements to written reports only. There's not a written report. I can attach it later to the minutes, but I don't think it should be on the agenda.
That's fine.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Okay, we're waiting on Ms. Vest to join. I'm going to call us to order after she gets in and her sound is situated. All right. Thank you everyone for attending. Madam Secretary, I'm going to call us to order at 4:07 p.m. Eastern Time. And at this point in time, we are going to take public comment.
Would I take roll first, Madam Chair?
Roll call.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead and take roll call.
Madam Chair, right before you take roll call, are we live streaming? Somebody just asked.
We are not live streaming yet.
Hold on one moment. They keep switching on where it's at. Give me one moment.
Yeah.
Mr. Malagon, for the record, I want you to know that I'm wearing this in honor of you. I have my support will probably lie elsewhere, but I want you to know that I care.
Madam Chair, the account I usually use to live stream is informing me that I'm not allowed to do that anymore. I'm trying a different one that I'm not sure I have credentials for, but maybe I do. It looks like it says preparing. Okay, we're good.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird to change permissions on one of the accounts.
Okay, meeting is live on YouTube. So when you are ready, we will go through roll call.
Okay, one moment. I've got a weird message on my YouTube screen that says, if someone could check if it's streaming. If it's not, I don't know how to troubleshoot this live, but I received a message on my screen that says video unavailable. Can someone check to see if it's live streaming?
I'm checking.
My screen says the content of this meeting is being sent to a third party.
We just got confirmation from 2 people in the chat that it is live streaming.
Okay, it's just YouTube being weird to me. Perfect, thank you. So for the roll call, Chair McCardle is here. Mr. Watkins?
Here.
Mr. Hagopian?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Malagon?
Present.
Mr. Nikela?
Present.
Ms. Yanuskavich?
Here.
Mr. Benner,
Here.
Mr. Dessing,
Here.
Mr. Ford,
Here.
Mr. Heyman,
Present.
Ms. Hayes,
Present.
Mr. Nana,
Present.
Mr. Tunevich,
Present.
Ms. Vest,
Here.
Mr. Alsted,
Present.
Mr. Cohen,
Present.
Mr. Dar,
Here.
Mr. Hall. I don't believe Mr. Hall is here. Mr. Hirsch,
Here.
Mr. Hyman,
I'm here.
Mr. Redpath.
He won't be here.
Okay. All right, Madam Chair, the only persons missing are two regional alternates, Mr. Hall and Mr. Redpath.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we will jump to public comment. I'm going to go down the list as they appear on my screen. And first is Hannah Goodman, LPCO State Chair.
You, Ms. McArdle. I would like to just voice my support for resolving Michigan's legal challenges. I'm a radical capitalist inside of me wants to just say how much I'm admiring both sides of this issue and formally fundraising and competing in the market. I love to see libertarians using libertarian solutions. So it's not really, though, about the financial contributions. It's about principle. The LNC must pursue what's right in Michigan, irrespective of donations, because our ethos mandates doing the right thing, no matter the challenge. The Libertarians Party opposition to injustice extends to addressing misconduct within our own ranks. Upholding integrity in all aspects is critical. We cannot tolerate dysfunction. I realize we're libertarians, so that's a big take. The argument that libertarians shouldn't take legal action against one another overlooks the importance of accountability. Actions that contravene our principles, regardless of one's claimed affiliation, reveal a departure from our values. As your vice chairman candidate, I am committed to leading with integrity, ensuring our party's actions align with our dedication to liberty and justice. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goodman. Up next, we have Mimi Robson, California, former state chair. Ms. Robson, when you are ready.
Oops, I was muted. I am so sorry. I started talking and I was muted. I am sorry. I wasted a few
That's okay.
seconds there.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. So I'm also here to speak on the situation in Michigan. I obviously am not a Michigan member, but I have watched all of the information. I watched the convention, and I just wanted to say that this convention was actually a properly called convention for the purpose of choosing delegates. It was called by the LNC recognized affiliate, and the 111 delegates showed up. They nominated and voted on their delegation. And it seems to me this lawsuit is just simply saying that the 4 people involved need to send that list to national, and anything beyond that can then be decided by the delegates at DC. And the reason I'm saying that the LNC should not be involved in this is, first, the lawsuit does not point to the LNC. It's going to ultimately be up to the membership. And there's nothing in the lawsuit that names the LNC. And so therefore putting $5,000 towards something that is not actually a part of national and is an affiliate situation shouldn't be something that y'all are doing. So I'm very much in support of Mr. Hopagian's motion to rescind the $5,000. And in fact, when Ms. Goodman brought up that there was being money raised on both sides, I know for a fact that $4,100 has been pledged, not necessarily to go to the Michigan affiliate, but to be actually donated to the National Libertarian Party for their use. So it's basically saying that there are many people that really want to see this resolved so that members' rights are ensured. And I don't know if anybody knows me at all, but I think that the members at convention, that is the body that has ultimate authority of party matters, period. That's why we get together, spend our money, and go. So I'd really like to see the
Thank you, Ms.
motion
Robson.
pass. That thanks.
Okay, up next we have Andrew Chatterton, Chair of the Libertarian Party of Michigan.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the time to hear from us, all the speakers today. I would also like to convey support for the continued funding for the previous motion for $5,000, as well as the ongoing support for the trademark litigation that's been ongoing. Contrary to the narrative that's been spread by many of the fraudulent actors here in Michigan, it's not simply a case of our convention buying or electing delegates and having that outcome respected. After the convention was called legitimately by the legitimate affiliate, members from the opposing faction in the state party felt necessary to steamroll over our bylaws to insert invalid and ineligible delegates into the voting population of the convention, even going so far as to override a ruling of their handpicked chair who allowed the business to be bulldozed through, specifically violating a requirement from our bylaws that delegates added to convention require a 7/8 vote. Furthermore, now this new lawsuit seeks to use the state courts to prevent our state party bylaws mandated processes for our judicial committee to hear such an allegation of violations of the bylaws. And for the relevance to the national party, it seeks to enjoin members of the national party from being able to pursue their legitimate means of challenging that outcome and holding accountable those members who egregiously, intentionally violated the bylaws of the state party and seek to do so through the courts of the national party. So unfortunately, it's not so simple as that. I also wish to see the rights of members protected, and that's why I asked the LNC to continue the funding for supporting of that lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chatterton. Up next, we have Mr. Travis Bost from West Virginia.
Good afternoon. This is Travis Bost. I'm the Vice Chair of the Libertarian Party of West Virginia, a National Life member, and a donor. I would like to rise in support of maintaining the expenditure. Although no action has been taken on this case at this time in Michigan between a group of individuals and a group of individuals who happen to be members of the board and the judicial committee. Unless and until that lawsuit is withdrawn, this money should be left set aside for that purpose to defend a state party that has been embroiled for several years in legal disputes. If matters of finances are an issue here, I have, as a donor, made a donation to support this cause and voting with my dollars. I believe this supporting our affiliate who's requested our assistance is integral to the protection of the state affiliate and the national party at large. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bost. Up next, we have Nick. I always butcher this. I apologize.
Siselski.
Siselski.
Siselski, yes.
Mr. Nick Siselski.
Hi, Nick Siselski, lifetime member here. It greatly disturbs me that this body is even discussing not supporting the rightful leadership of one of its affiliates. It disturbs me even more that some of the members have called for ending any support to the rightful Michigan leadership in other lawsuits. It is greatly disturbing to see some people who've sat around and complained about national now coming around claiming, a modest amount of donations for ending support of our Michigan affiliate. At this point, it feels to me that anyone opining on this situation against the support of the rightful affiliate, Mr. Chatterton, and his leadership team is either willfully ignorant of the facts of this situation or is openly in support of fraudulent actions. By not supporting the rightful affiliate in Michigan, these actions and lawsuits will continue across the country. This is going to put an open season on affiliate leadership across the country. And you're going to be fighting this battle in every state party anytime anyone is upset over one thing or another, regardless of whether there are additional remedies available within the party bylaws. I believe that we should put our money where our mouth is. I have donated to the legal fund in support of Michigan. I believe a solid amount of money has been raised to that, a very good portion of the requested funds. And I believe that the LNC here should vote on using that money the way the donors intended it and supporting Mr. Chatterton and the rightful affiliate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cecilski. Up next, we have Matt Lawrence, former chair of the Libertarian Party of Nebraska.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt Lawrence, Nebraska, lifetime member. I'm just here in support of Mr. Chatterton and his team in his legal efforts. I've also donated to this effort. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Petro Garacci of New York. Petro, go right ahead, but I think you're muted.
Oh, there we go. I couldn't find the mute button. Anyway, greetings from Montreal, Quebec. I don't know if you can see any of the buildings here. The camera's working, but they speak way too much French for my liking. But it's a nice city, and I'm up here for the solar eclipse. I'll be down in Plattsburgh tomorrow. Anyway, I'd like to voice my support for the Michigan affiliate, and it's a shame that they've had to file suit to get their slate of delegates selected. Personally, I think it might be better off sorted out by either the credentials committee or the delegates themselves in Washington, but it is what it is. And I do support the motion to rescind the $5,000. And like I said, I think it's better sorted in Washington, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I'd also like to voice my support for ending the LNC's lawsuit against the Michigan affiliate. I think the delegates made it clear who they want to be their leadership. And I think it's time for National to abide by those wishes. I'd also like to comment on something in the chair's report. She mentioned that there's a drop-off in revenue due to a boycott and what I read as a sabotage effort. And while I think there's some accuracy there, I think there's a part left out, which is that in the wake of the Reno reset, a lot of folks were disappointed, were branded as loser brigade and told to leave and that they were not welcome and that they and their money would be replaced. And so those people listened, and now they're being branded as boycotters and part of some sort of vast Sarwarkian conspiracy. And that's just not accurate. And I think it's important to voice that part of the record as well. And that's just not the whole cause here, and that there's other factors that have gone into this. That's all I got to get him in Montreal here. It's very nice. And I will yield the rest of my time. Thank you very much.
Madam
Thank you,
Chair,
Mr. Yes.
I believe I might have missed a commenter. If I will look at chat, if you commented and you don't see your name, please just stick it in chat so that I can make sure you're recorded.
It's Matthew Lawrence.
And he came
Nebraska.
after. Well, I could just stick mine here because I stick it in alphabetical order in the minutes. Anyway, thank you. I thought I missed somebody. Thank you.
No problem. Up next, we have Tyler Bargenquist.
Hey guys, appreciate the time. Tyler Runquist from Shreveport, Louisiana, membership officer. I just want to let everyone know that we recently passed a unanimous resolution today that's pretty much says, whereas the Libertarian Party bylaw supports the autonomy of state affiliates, whereas libertarians object to intellectual property lawsuits and legal abuses, whereas we're not a bunch of frickin' statists, be it resolved that the Libertarian Party of Louisiana calls upon the LNC to immediately drop its lawsuits against the libertarian activists and members of the Michigan affiliate. And personally, I think you really shouldn't have an opinion on this if you have not watched the whole thing, because there's over 100 delegates there, they said. And a lot of them people had been in the party for over 20 plus years. There's actually towards the end, and it shows that And I just want to side note, I definitely do not agree with this pay to play candidate forum that you guys have implemented. And I wish everyone would protest that and reach out to the candidates and wish they would do the same. It should go back to the token system. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Mr. Barganquast. Up next, we have Mark Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, we can't hear you. No audio. Do you mind if I jump to TG and then come right back to you?
And Madam Chair, I actually have a point of order.
Okay.
And I know this isn't a popular one. We've done the same thing in bylaws. The chat box is like holding up signs in a meeting. I do insist that decorum be maintained in the chat box. They can always go to the YouTube channel if they wish to say things that are not going to be interrupting a meeting. It's not any one particular side. It's multiple sides. But the chat box is not for that. And I've seen some super rude comments.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Everyone, please behave yourselves in the chat. Let's jump to Mr. TJ Cozen, and then we're going to come back to Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to speak on 3 points. One, once upon a time, the LNC helped my wife fight for ballot access. I do think the LNC owes it to a state affiliate chair to help him fight his legal battles, and I support the recognized affiliate in Michigan and the Michigan chair. Also, I do believe we do need to go back to the token system. I do not like the pay to play for the debate. As someone from candidate support on national committee, I've been reached out to by several of the presidential candidates who do not like this pay to play. They've already spent tens of thousands of dollars from their donors on the Texas version. Now we're going to ask them to do the same. How are they supposed to spread liberty and their campaign messaging? And finally, I do want to acknowledge that all over Twitter, our national chair gets bashed left and right. I want to point out a fact that she does not brag about, and that she should, because it is an achievement. She delegates a lot of time to the National Candidate Support Committee. It is a pet project of hers. She helped bring voter gravity to the party with myself and several members on the Candidate Support Committee. I advise all the state chairs to invest in that program. It'll benefit your candidates. It'll help them door knock and help them compete against Republicans and Democrats. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cozen. He's from Pennsylvania, Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, we are at time.
Okay. Is someone going to entertain a motion to extend public comment?
I'll put up a motion to extend time for 15 minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend time by 15 minutes. Any objections? Going once, going twice. Hearing none, public comment is extended another 15 minutes. Up next, we have Ms. Dana Carver from Michigan.
Hi, Dana Carver. I am on Andrew's board. I'm the first district rep for the Michigan board. And I would like to start with the fact that the affiliate did not ask for this money. This money was asked for personally by Mr. Chatterton. One of the other defendants has already given their answer, and they do not want any legal help from National. They've made this clear, Mr. Andy Evans. This was not even brought in front of the Michigan board, this asking for money. So I'm speaking in favor of Todd's motion, by the way. So the affiliate didn't ask for it. The board did not ask for it. The board has not even been made aware. There's been no email, no anything. We know about it because of social media. This has nothing to do with National. This has to do with the in-state issue. And the reason the people that signed on to this lawsuit, this latest one, did this is because of what's gone on. They were told to show up. They showed up. They voted. Everything was done properly. And yet here we are. Andrew refused to seat 2 elected members of the board and threatened that he was going to affect the delegate list. There has been one appeal against the delegate list by Jonathan Jacobs, who's not even a resident of our state. He may be a member, but he's not a resident. There were no bylaws violated. The 4 people that were suspended were unsuspended, and they were seated as delegates during the unaffiliated region meeting. And when they were seated, the vice chair, Leah Daly, who was in charge of that meeting, said that they would be seated and she would leave it up to credentialing. So credentialing met on this, our credentials committee here in the state, and they refused to hear Andrew's motion against any of the delegates because he tried to get rid of the Macomb delegates out of Macomb County and the 4 suspended folk. So credentials told him prior to convention that they did not take his motion kindly.
Thank you, Ms. Carver. That's 2 minutes. I apologize. We skipped over Mr. Rutherford, so we're going to go back to him.
Thank you. This is Mark Rutherford. I assume you can hear me now.
Yes.
And I'm a former national vice chair and a former state chair or chair of the state of Indiana. I really like the fact that we have open public comment at our meetings. It's a way that has distinguished the Libertarian Party from the other parties, especially the Democrats and Republicans. I'm very proud of it. It's very important to be open, and I remind everybody on the LNC to keep their conversations as open and public as possible, other than in extreme situations where privacy is necessary and is generally considered fine to do. Thank you all for being here, and I really appreciate the discussions that are happening right now in public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Up next, we have Jennifer Hobbing from Texas.
Yeah, thanks. I was wanting to voice my support of the supporting the Andrew Chatterton in Michigan and opposing the motion by Todd Agopian. I do feel like there's a lot of misinformation. I have watched the Michigan convention and did see a lot of concerns with it. And I think the big thing is that the list has been submitted. The list of delegates has been submitted to the credentialing committee. And so I've asked the members who are suing Andrew Chatterton and others to, remove the lawsuit. Now that the list has been submitted, I don't understand what the point of the lawsuit is. And so since they're refusing to do that, I think we do need to support the chair and the other members of LP Michigan to make sure that they're able to defend themselves, and because it should be the rights of the delegates in DC to decide who is seated from Michigan, and also the rights of the credentialing committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Dominic Thelen.
Hello, my name is Dominic Thalen. I'm from Michigan and I'm on the LEC board there. And as someone who was at this state convention, I would like to say that there was a distinct lack of decorum among many of the delegates there. People were shouted over, and those members that were suspended were reinstated with a simple majority instead of a 7/8 majority that is required by the bylaws. And having a majority of the delegates doesn't give you the right to steamroll the bylaws, which are there, and they're in place to protect the rights of the members. And that is all. Thank you for this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thalen. Up next, we have James Wiley from Colorado.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm the interim executive director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado and candidate for the 3rd Congressional District here to replace Lauren Boebert. I just wanted to comment real quick on this litigation. I think it's important that we vote against the motion to withdraw the funds. I think that we should be supporting this litigation and pushing it forward at every opportunity. We need to respect the law, the bylaws of the party, both the national and state levels, and make sure that we are pursuing aggressive litigation against those people who violate the laws. Be sure to enforce our identity and uphold that substance of who we are by going after this in court. So I'm in support of the funding.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wiley. Up next, we have Allison Graham.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Graham from the Great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm the membership chair of Pennsylvania and also serving as Pennsylvania's representative on the LNC Credentials Committee. I just wanted to thank everybody for the privilege of serving them on the Credentials Committee. It means a lot to me personally. My sixth great grandfather, Timothy Matlack, was the scribe of the Declaration of Independence and served as secretary of both clerk of both Continental Congresses and secretary of the second. So it does great honor 250 years later to serve as secretary for our delegates as he did for those esteemed delegates of the Continental Congresses. And I would be remiss in my role as secretary not to remind everybody of the section, a deadline coming up for the Credentials Committee. It is in our national bylaws, Article 10 Convention, Section 4, letter C. A list of the names and addresses of all delegates and alternates chosen by each affiliate party shall be sent to the Credentials Committee no later than 1 month prior to the start of the first general session of the regular convention. And please also look to section D here. C continues a little longer, but D, failure to submit a listing of delegate alternate names and addresses, that's important, as prescribed within these bylaws shall cause no delegation to be registered from that affiliate party, which would be the state. So please make sure that your state leadership and your delegation chairs are sending your list of delegates to the Credentials Committee within that time frame, which is again 1 month prior to the start of the first general session at the convention itself. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing everybody. Your humble and obedient servant from Pennsylvania, Allison.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Up next, we have Sean Levasseur.
Yes, pronounced Levasseur. I am a life member of the National Party and a life member of the Maine affiliate, and the former chair of the same. I didn't originally intend to comment, but hearing so much about Michigan, I wanted to add 2 cents that I don't think was being said by anyone. Much of this controversy is that at the Michigan convention, there were some delegates to it that were improperly seated. But the lawsuit here is because there is a great fear that one person, the chair, is going to remedy that problem by just replacing the convention's choices with his choices. This sounds like a remedy that is worse than the original offense, assuming it even is an offense. I don't expect any answers from Mr. Chatterton on this because, well, there is a lawsuit pending. So, but I wanted the question out there just so we know that the reason for the lawsuit, I think, is sound. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we are at time.
Okay, we are at time.
I would move to extend for 6 minutes to allow the 3 remaining persons who have their hands raised to be able to speak.
Second. Okay,
I object. I object. This has gone enough.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend time by 6 minutes, and there's been an objection.
Discussion, Madam Chair.
Sure.
If the 6 minutes is also intending to accommodate any public comment by LNC members, then I'm certainly in favor.
Madam Chair, I can't raise my hand, but I would like to be next.
Okay, go ahead, Madam Secretary.
Motion is not intended to cover LNC members. We have plenty of time to speak during the meeting, whereas members do not. It is to accommodate Colin Fitzgerald, Rebecca Whiting, and Jessica Sentman. And I call the question.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Any objections to calling the question? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to go to a vote on our motion to extend time by 6 minutes for the purposes of hearing public comment from the 3 individuals who have their hands raised. That's Colin Fitzgerald, Rebecca Whiting, and Jessica Sentman. Madam Secretary, when you're ready.
Mr. Benner?
Yes, sorry about that.
Mr. Blankenship?
Yes.
Mr. Dassing?
No.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian?
Yes.
Mr. Heyman?
Yeah.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes, thank you. Mr. Maligan?
No.
Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
No.
Mr. Tunyevich,
Express abstention.
Ms. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Abstain.
Ms. Yanuskavich.
No.
Madam Chair, this would require a 2/3 vote as it is effectively amending an unofficial agenda, but it does have 2/3.
It does have 2/3. Okay, chair's not voting. Motion passes. We will continue. Mr. Colin Fitzgerald, please go right ahead. Make sure you're unmuted. Mr. Fitzgerald, if you'd like to give public comment now is the time.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I haven't done Zoom very much. I just took myself off on mute. Colin Fitzgerald, everybody. I am a newly minted lifetime member of both the national and the state party. It is unfortunate that it's come to this in our state, but I believe it has. We have seen repeated bad faith efforts by the other party, and it should be noted that on our March 10/24 convention, our executive committee passed a resolution by a margin of 10 to 2-1 that the executive committee of the Libertarian Party of Michigan supports the actions of the LNC in defending our bylaws and the Libertarian Party brand against any fraudulent use here in Michigan and thus throughout the country. As a new member, I'm thinking I'm going to the legitimate convention and we're doing all this stuff to preserve the bylaws that we all said we agree to enter into. And then I feel it's crucial that we maintain the lawsuit and support the money that we are trying to raise to bring this to its end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fitzgerald. Up next, we have Ms. Rebecca Whiting.
Okay, sorry. I'm off mute now. Okay, I'm here. I'm the chair of the Libertarian Party of Minnesota, and I'm here to speak in support of the Michigan lawsuit with the Michigan Chair Chatterton and upholding the bylaws in Michigan. I think that the bylaws are not suggestions to use when they benefit us, but to help us maintain our order and keep out corruption. And if that's the case, and that's what's happening in Michigan, then I support the lawsuit going forward.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Whiting. And our last public comment is by Ms. Jessica Sentman.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I just wanted to, first of all, thank the LNC for all the support that you've been giving Michigan. And I just wanted to request support to continue because the last 2 years has been very, very tough for the Michigan LP. The attacks that we're getting are relentless. The opposing side does not want any boundaries or rules. They just want to be able to do whatever they want whenever they do. And I'm just worried about the precedents this could set for the future of the Michigan party and other parties as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sentman. Okay, that concludes public comment. My apologies to anyone who joined late, but we had just voted on extending it specifically for that particular amount of time for those individuals. Up next we have, let's jump to our agenda. Credentials.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
did we entertain a motion to amend? I know we
adoption of the agenda is coming up, and that's when.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah, we're good.
So the next item would be mine, credentials report and paperwork check. So I had sent an email out to the LNC. The chair or the treasurer can advise me. All LNC members, it is your responsibility to make sure that you are a current sustaining member of National. To my knowledge, everyone is.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next is adoption of agenda, and there were 2 of you who raised concerns with the agenda.
I can't
Madam
raise
Chair,
my.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move standing committee reports and regional reports till the end of the meeting so that we can address the issues at hand, the issues of the day, which are in fact quite serious. This is for the benefit of time, for the seriousness of the issues, and also for those people who would like to listen in and, quite frankly, get to, unfortunately, what is.
Point of
what are-
order, Madam Chair. We're getting into debate without a second.
Okay.
Okay, fine, whatever. You have my motion.
Okay, we got your motion. It needs a second.
I'll second it. I just
Okay.
want things done right. That's all.
That's totally fine. Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Do we have it? You're working on getting it down to move region reports to
Region
the end
and standing committees.
and standing committees. I
And
really want to get to the COC report. I'm not going to object.
I have an amendment. I don't know if Mr. Nana is ahead of me.
You were technically
I am.
next, and then Mr. Nana.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to, I'm trying to get this down to end of agenda. I would like to move to amend, and additionally to strike any regional reports for which a regional report was not submitted in writing in advance, with an invitation to those regionals to submit a written report to be appended to the minutes, and to also exclude the Convention Oversight Committee report.
I'll second that.
Okay. Let's wait.
Request for information. I'm sorry.
Certainly.
I didn't quite understand the last part of the secretary's motion relative to excluding the COC report. What was the intention there? I'm sorry.
I think let's let her get it on this. Let's let her get
Okay.
it on the screen, and then I think it'll be clearer because I think it was probably just misunderstood.
It's going to take me a few seconds to
That's
write
okay.
out an invitation
That's
to
okay.
the regional reps to submit a written report to be appended to the minutes, and for the Convention Oversight Committee report to be exempted from moving. So my intention, if it's not clear, is that the Convention Oversight Committee report would stay where it's at in the agenda.
Got it.
Thank you.
Mr. Nana,
Does that amendment need a second?
Yes, it does.
Well, I will give you your second then, and then I was just gonna say strike all regionals, but this is fine.
okay. Thank you. Okay, it's been, this amendment has been moved and seconded.
Point of
Any dis-
order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Malagon.
Are we going to do something about the comments? I think you were already clear. Is there some sort of penalty if people are just going to name call and just, I'm really sick of seeing this stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, I just saw it.
I think there's
guys?
a way for you to mute the chat. I don't remember how to do it, but
Yep.
Madam Chair, I would just suggest that you direct me to delete comments that are really quite obviously outside of decorum, such as the one in question.
So the annoying thing about that is that then that means you have to be paying attention to the chat while you and I are trying to pay attention to motions.
There's very few people that are doing this.
Okay. Go ahead. If you want to delete offensive comments, that's fine. And then if you guys can't, control yourselves, we're just going to turn off the chat. You can still chat away on YouTube though. YouTube is not the same. I'm not looking at it. It's not, it's distracting. Yes, censorship, much censorship. Terrible. Anyway, let's jump back to the matter at hand. Point well taken. Okay, do we have discussion on Ms. Harlos's amendment?
My hand's not raised, Madam Chair, for discussion. It's raised for a later amendment.
Got it. Okay, is there any objection to the amendment? Going once, going twice? Hearing none. Okay, the amendment is adopted, and that is now the main motion. So now let's go to a vote on the main motion as adopted. Gonna strike regional reports for which any regional reports were not submitted in writing, with an invitation to the regional reps to submit a written report to be appended to the minutes. You can still get it in. And for the Convention Oversight Committee to be exempted from moving. So that means the COC report doesn't get kicked to the very back, but everything else does. Any objections to making this amendment to the agenda? Going once, going twice, hearing none. Okay. The agenda is amended, and now we'll jump to Madam Secretary's next motion or point of order, whatever you've got
Oh, I
coming.
have a motion to amend.
Okay.
I move to amend the agenda to move to the first item of business, Mr. Tunyevich's motion to drop the trademark lawsuit.
Okay.
I'll second.
Objection. I would like to hear our financial report before moving to that item.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to move the lawsuit to the beginning of the agenda, and it's been objected to hear the financial report. So, any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'd just like to say to my fellow members, I think we would be far better informed in making a decision regarding the trademark lawsuit, its status, and any decisions about it after having received a full financial report from the treasurer, portions of which may be in executive session. I think to do so without that information is unwise. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, did you have your hand up to
Yes, I
respond?
did.
Yes, go right ahead.
I'm moving to, well, first, I'm going to move to call the question, but I get to make a brief comment first. We have talked this to death. I do not wish to spend additional time in executive session. Everyone knows the lay of the land. This is, and I believe everyone has their mind made up. I'd like to move on with the rest of our business with as little waste of time as possible, so I call the question.
Okay, the question has been called. Is there an objection to calling the question? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to say the question is called. When you are ready, we will
Sure.
go to.
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Just need to get all of the information in my form here. Great. I was typing in tongues. Mr. Benner,
No.
Mr. Blankenship,
Pass.
Mr. Dassing,
No.
Mr. Ford,
Excuse me, point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is this the correct motion? I thought we were voting on whether or not to move this agenda item up.
Oh, you are so right.
Oh my God.
If we could restart that, I'd sure appreciate it.
Oh,
Was
sure.
there
So
Good call.
move to, you're correct, amend agenda to, and that was my motion, to move this item
Well,
to the top.
point of inquiry while the secretary is finishing that up? Who seconded this motion? I just don't remember.
I
To
did,
amend the
Mr.
agenda,
Nana.
there was a second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I am in, or I seconded Mr. Nana.
excellent.
Okay, thank you. So we're going back. The motion is to move to amend the agenda to move the item regarding the trademark lawsuit to the very beginning. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
1 second. Mr. Blankenship,
Pass.
Mr. Dassing,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian,
No.
Mr. Heyman,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hayes,
Pass for right now. Give me a second.
Mr. Maligan,
Aye.
Mr. Nana,
Pass.
Mr. Nikayla,
Aye.
Mr. Rufo,
Abstain.
Mr. Tunyevich,
Nay.
Ms. Vest,
No.
Mr. Watkins,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
No.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Nana,
No.
Madam Chair, it would require a 2/3 vote. It exactly has a 2/3 vote.
Okay, it has 2/3, chair's not voting, motion passes.
Okay, let
Madam
me-
Chair, I have a point of order from before the vote. I wanted to wait until after the vote.
Certainly, Mr. Rufo.
If I would appreciate if we could inform members that when making their arguments, taking subtle digs at telling people that they are unwise and attacking the intelligence of the fellow boards in subtle condescending manners, if that could be avoided, perhaps we could use terms like ill-informed that are less condescending and you know, I understand opinions are heated right now and people have a lot of emotions involved here, but let's avoid unnecessary subtle digs at each other. If you have something that's going to be, if you want to say something to somebody and you want to break decorum, just break decorum. But I'd appreciate if everybody kept decorum and we avoided any attacks on each other today, sped the meeting up, and avoided condescension, because condescension is a big problem. Because you're
you.
insinuating that you're more intelligent than the rest of the people on the phone call, and it may not necessarily be true. So I'd appreciate it if we could all be respectful of one another.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rufo. Point well taken. Okay, the agenda has been amended. So let's double check.
Yep, I'm just moving that item up on
Yep.
my.
You got it.
Oh, we're still actually on the agenda, Madam Chair. So I moved that
Right.
up on my notes, but we're still on approval of the agenda.
Yep. Okay, I don't see any more hands going up, so I think we're gonna vote on the agenda, the entire agenda as amended. We've
Yes, Madam
already,
Chair.
okay, there we go.
We can ask if there's any objection, however.
That is what I'm gonna do. I don't see any hands up. Probably because we've already voted on it twice. Any objection to approving the agenda as amended? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing no objection, the agenda is adopted as amended.
Just give me one moment to catch up on the minutes. The
Yeah.
motion to amend passed by roll call vote. And then this passed without objection. So the next item up is Mr. Tunyevich's motion.
All right, Mr. Tunyevich, you have the floor.
He needs a second.
Oh, that's true.
I'll second for the point of discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Blankenship. May I proceed, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So folks, especially for my fellow LNC members, many of whom were not on the board when this suit was in its beginning time, prior to us voting to file this suit, I spoke out against it pretty strongly. I saw the people who were involved on both sides. One side in particular was like a who's who of longtime Michigan activists. I served briefly on the Michigan board back in the 90s, so I am familiar with some of the players here. So I advised the LNC against it. I may have even used the word unwise, but did not mean it in a condescending sense. I felt it was unwise, and that we would be better served by letting our members settle their own differences and not really put our thumb on the scale when it comes to control of affiliates. Having said that, once this board decided to take action, I know my responsibilities as a board member is to support that decision, and I have for, what are we? We're certainly over well over 1 year in this time. However, things have not changed. I understood our position to be strong. I thought the whole use of trademark law was a clever technique, and I admired some of the strong arguments being made by our hired outside counsel. But with time, I have concluded that this suit does far more harm than it does good. This suit has been cited everywhere I look as the #1 reason why people are not giving to the party. This is part of the reason why I wanted to hear the discussion of our financial situation, because I think it would reflect that. I think that it was a mistake for multiple reasons. One, it is fomenting further problems between state parties, not just in Michigan. So therefore, I think it's driving division, not solving it. I think it's also too expensive. We have a 6-figure legal budget last time I checked, and this is the most active legal matter we have currently. I think it was a mistake overall, and that so it's impacting fundraising to a dramatic extent. It is an expensive item when we are in a time of budget crunch and have had to cut the national budget over 30% this year already. And I would urge my members, I would urge my fellow members to consider dropping this suit for the good of the party. Thank you.
Mr. Watkins?
Beating a dead horse here, and I'm sick of it, and we're behind. I'm calling the question.
I second.
Okay, question's been called. It's been seconded. Is there any objection? Going
My
once.
hand is not raised for that. It's something else.
Thank you. Going once, going twice, hearing none. Okay, if there's no objection, the question is called and we will move to a vote.
Mr. Benner,
No.
Mr. Blankenship,
Pass.
Mr. Dasson,
No.
Mr. Ford,
No.
Mr. Hagopian,
Yes.
Mr. Heyman.
No.
I will vote no. Ms. Hayes.
Point of clarification, this is only the trademark suit, correct?
Correct.
No.
Mr. Malagon,
Nay.
Mr. Nana,
Pass.
Mr. Nikela,
No.
Mr. Rufo,
No.
Mr. Chinyevich,
Aye.
Ms. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
No.
Ms. Yanuskavich.
No.
Going back up, Mr. Blankenship,
Abstain.
Mr. Nana.
Abstain.
Madam Chair, it is 3-11-2.
Okay, chair is not voting, motion passes, or sorry, motion fails. All right. Let's see what's next on our agenda. I believe it's report of potential conflicts of interest, actually.
Yeah, I forgot to stick that on there.
Okay.
In the OneNote, a bunch of people did send their potential, cumulative conflicts of interest. I do have it updated as of today. If you have any additional, let me know right now or by email, but it is in the OneNote. And Madam Chair, I realized, I think I neglected something in roll call. I might not have updated my roll call. I did not. Mr. Burke is not present. I didn't update this form since he was elected.
Is Mr. Allstott present?
Yes,
Okay,
he wasn't roll call.
got it. All right, up next we have Chair's report. Give me a moment. All right, so a big topic of discussion is that revenue has been down. We climbed up a little bit in March. We had approximately $90,000 in non-convention revenue and over $38,000 in convention revenue. It still has a ways to go. And I talked about how we're going to get out of that in my report. And we can get into that in detail later when we go and into discussing our financials. But I would encourage you to look at that. I think we can talk a little bit about it in staff reports as well. We've had a lot of changes since 2022. We need to overcome them regardless of how difficult it is. We've cut $17,000 from the monthly budget. We had to do some layoffs. It sucked. But we had to do what we had to do. We need to increase our outreach on ballot access. I think that's really critical. And we need to start using our new tools immediately, the CRM and the new website, and continue to fundraise off of other things that we know people enjoy and they want to donate towards, like voter gravity and candidate support. I know that the last few months of the term are challenging. People are fed up with each other. You're frustrated, you're disappointed. I'd encourage us all to hold it together and try to be professional for the last couple of months of the term. I think that would go a long way. I think people would appreciate it. I know I would appreciate it. Let me jump into some of the questions that Mr. Tunyevich had about our December fundraiser and Rage Against the War Machine. So what I found was that we donated $1,500 to Rage Against the War Machine. That's it. For some reason, there seems to be some internet conspiracy around it. Rage Against the War Machine is a 501c4. I didn't take any payment for it. Not that that would be wrong. It's okay to pay people for their work. But the money went to the rally. There's another rally planned for September 21st. We had it planned for February. And we didn't anticipate a really strong turnout this time. And a lot of Libertarian Party members were very focused on their state conventions and the national convention. So we decided to push it back. So yeah, so that's still happening. There have been some questions, and I'll get to you guys with your hands up once I get to the end of the report. There have been some questions about what the 501c4 does. Is it filing paperwork on time? It is. I have the end of year report filed by John Branson, the attorney who used to work for the LP. It's fine. There's no weird question as to the filings. Everything is FEC compliant. I encourage anybody to call the FEC directly when you have questions about FEC compliance instead of speculating on things. Very, very helpful to do. I do it all the time. I probably call the FEC once a week. Regarding the fundraising in December, it took me a while to track down our numbers. We did not make money. I think we probably lost about $3,000 on the event. We made a little over $3,000. And my takeaway on this, especially combined with some of our past fundraisers that were successful, is that we should stop holding fundraisers in expensive hotels. The fundraiser that we had, that Ms. Houston put together with Ms. Kennedy back in early 2022, which was at a private residence in Texas, we didn't have to pay all these crazy fees to get food out and, you know, for a venue. I think we should also really consider not booking every LNC meeting at an expensive hotel in the future. I went through Peerspace and similar websites and found there's very large conference rooms and, you know, like semi-resort looking places that we can book for $45 to $75 an hour if we what is it? I think I put us at like $1,350 for a space rental for like 2.5 days on a weekend. We should probably be doing that instead. We can get catering for 40 people for like $900. We should start saving costs and spending our money a little bit more wisely. There was a code used for our donations, but not everybody donated through that code either when they made when they participated in the auction. So that also made it difficult to track. I think we need to be a little bit stricter with how we take donations for events so that we can do a better job of keeping track of everything. Yeah, so that's what I have on that. Happy to take more questions on it if anybody wants to ask. Mr. Tunyevich?
So, Madam Chair, first regarding and thank you for starting to address some of these. I know some time has passed. It's taken some time to get the information. Regarding the Rage Against the War Machine rally, so we can find that information, because people have been looking for those details and had not been able to find the filed reports. What is the legal entity name of that?
It's Rage Against the War Machine. It's a 501c4.
Thank you.
It's not an organization that has to file with the FEC.
Thank you. And does the filing that you referenced, since this rally, this entity raised 6 figures to put on that rally, raised and spent, does that filing include details about where the money came from and how it was spent?
Well, sure, some of it does, but some of it was also posted on social media, and there was a give butter where you could see where every donation came from.
Great. Well, I'll definitely go track
That's all. Yeah, that's all
report down.
public, and it has been public the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
There was a spreadsheet shared on social media of all of our cost breakdown, how much the stage was, flights for people who work there, for volunteers, for speakers, what do we have to pay for a med tent? I don't think people realize how expensive it is to put on an event. You have to pay for security. You have to pay for a med tent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your sharing those details. So that filing was made with the IRS. Is that where we're looking? Since it's not an FEC.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes. Madam
This
Secretary.
meeting is about the Libertarian National Committee. If someone has complaints about another organization, they should go to that organization. I am not interested in wasting time on that. If somebody has some kind of censure or rescission or resolution to bring regretting the LNC's involvement in the event, that's an entirely different matter. But this deep dive into an outside organization's finances, whether they're right or wrong, is just completely inappropriate for an LNC meeting. Bring a motion appropriate to an LNC meeting.
A point of personal privilege, Madam
It's a point of order, Madam Chair.
She just gave a point of order.
On my
The chair
point of
has
order.
to talk.
I think the point is well taken. And Mr. Tunyevich, I made sure to answer your questions, but I don't feel that it's appropriate and that I should be so inclined as to dump a whole bunch of information about another entity, especially when that entity that we were involved with didn't do anything wrong. So I think we just need to move on. I mean, if you have additional questions about the fundraiser event, I will certainly hear them.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate your indulgence. Regarding the fundraiser, way back in December, you said it lost maybe $3 grand.
Mm-hmm.
We never heard how many people attended. Can you share a few other details?
We had around 40. We had around 40 attendees.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and I'll reserve my comments regarding the rally. I'll just place a brief comment in the chat. Thank you.
Mr. Ford?
Yeah, if I can speak to sort of punctuate the Rage Against the Machine conversation. First of all, I was not only a supporter, not only was I an attendee, I was also a financial supporter and a sponsor of the event. At the time I reflected, I was not only exceedingly pleased, I was thrilled. It brought to bear for a limited involvement of the LNC and the Libertarian Party, I think it was $1,500. It brought us in contact with potential single issue coalition membership from around the country, and brought us into a national conversation. It was incredibly well run. Again, I think I mentioned at the time I walked in and I thought, oh my God, someone else is having an event here. And it turned out to be us. It was run and looked like a rock event. It was fantastic. And, you know, we walked away with lessons on how to do that. I look forward to participating in the one in the future. And again, this is a separate organization for which we were simply a contributor to. Spiritually, of course, we were involved, but I look forward to an ongoing relationship with the anti-war community. It's part and parcel of our mission. Secondly, and finally, briefly, with regard to the fundraising events, I go back to an event in Boston that was just, at the one LNC meeting in New England in 30 years, and it was rough. I look back at the Brown Hotel event, which was
Madam
rough.
Chair, I'm raising another point of order. We have a long meeting. This is continuing
Madam
on
Chair,
a discussion that was already overruled.
I'm responding, Karen Ann. Unfortunately, for those of us who would like to take the opportunity to respond to allegations made about the committee.
Yeah,
So
but that's not fair to Mr. Chunyevich because he doesn't
Okay.
get to respond to the response.
Okay, whatever.
All
I was
right.
happy. Fair enough.
Okay.
Are we
Thank
at
you, Mr.
point of
Ford.
order? Are we at time? Can we move on?
Just gonna ask.
There's 9 more minutes left.
There you go. Are there any other questions on the chair's report? With the caveat that we will get into some of the finances later on agendized items. All right. Hearing none, we're going to jump to the vice chair's report.
All righty, I get 3 minutes. So just to be quick, we are leasing out headquarters. We have a prospective tenant, but I don't want to give anything further on that right now until things are a little more official. But and I do have an idea of what rent should be a good amount, and that should help a lot with revenue. But again, I will inform everybody of that further when things are more official. Items have been cleared out over the past 2 months or so, maybe 3 months, I'm not sure. Me, Angela, and Dan John, Paul Bracco, and Henry Barquette in Virginia all helped reorganize things. Like historical items have been moved down into the basement. Lots of literature has been offered to candidates and affiliates within driving distance and otherwise disposed of. The mailroom still has a lot of non-branded paper products and office supplies. I plan to go through most of that, I guess, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks from now, something like that. But more importantly, the roof, I believe, is in need of replacement. I found 4 leaks while I was up there last time. It was a good thing it was raining at the time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it. And I did some digging to see how long this has been an issue, and it seems to go back to about December, at least December, but probably before December of 2020. I believe about $3,000 was paid in order to patch the roof or something, and it seemed to have been resolved, at least that issue. And then the next year, in December of 2021, there was a reported $15,000 allocation for minor roof repairs, paint, brickwork, and so on. And it doesn't seem like that has been resolved up until about July of 2022, where a former staff informed other staff members and LNC members that this had been taken care of. It has not been. I've spoken to a couple of inspectors, hoping to hear back this week from one. It should cost about $275 just to inspect the roof, just to know for sure whether or not we should replace it. But I would say we do, and I think that could cost somewhere between $7,000 to $12,000, unfortunately. But you got to replace your roof. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Any
I'm out of time.
questions? Any questions for Mr. Watkins? Mr. Maligan?
The Region 4 alternate asked a very important question. I want an update on the state of the mustache for Mr. Watkins. That's probably more important than the building, honestly.
The mustache is great. Unfortunately, my camera does not work. I don't know why it won't work. Otherwise, I would show you.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Watkins.
There we go. If there's no further questions for our vice chair, we're going to jump to Mr. Hagopian for the treasurer's report.
All right. On or about March 27th, I submitted a financial deep dive to the public list that is going to serve as the treasurer's report. We also had a meeting later that week with the XCOM that the full LNC was allowed to come to. So I will not be covering a treasurer's report here today, but that is the treasurer's report. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Hagopian?
I do, Madam Chair.
Go right ahead, Mr. Tunjevich.
Todd, is there any subsequent information that we should be aware of beyond the reported information that you referenced to that is relevant to today's agenda?
I have not received the March financials yet, but there was not a $40,000 drop in finances in March based on what I can see so far. So the trend that we saw in February did not continue in March, but I do not have the exact numbers at this point.
I can share the numbers.
Okay.
We had, and I want staff to double check that, but I believe we had brought in a total of $129,298. $90,708 of that was non-convention revenue. I want to double check the store revenue, but that is very close. So we are on a slight upward trajectory.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary?
This kind of goes to both the vice chair and the treasurer's report. I think either can answer. There was a question in chat about potential insurance covering issues with the building. It would be my understanding, and I would like to know if it's correct, that the roof issues and other issues are just normal wear and tear, which is not covered by insurance. Insurance is not intended to give you a new roof because your roof is old. But maybe I'm mistaken. Is there any kind of damages that would be covered by property insurance?
I'll let Mr. Watkins answer to it, but I can assure you that if it's from 3 years ago, then the answer is going to be no.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, Mr. Nana?
I believe the secretary asked the first portion of my question. But have we talked to the previous contractor for the roof?
I don't know who it is.
I'm only asking because I was being asked and I don't know who it is either.
Yeah, I don't know who it is, but if anybody knows, please send them my way. But
okay.
If we spent $3,000 on them last time and it doesn't seem to have fixed anything, then I probably wouldn't want to use them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then I'd like to, I guess just know what repairs they did do and what, I guess, I don't know, might make us better informed, but.
Yeah. If there's anybody that was on here during that term that has any further info, please share it. But to my knowledge, it was a patch job and it was some kind of storm damage and they patched it up and I guess it didn't last very long.
Okay. I guess I had one other, this is completely unrelated, but just while I'm talking, sorry. So we have a pending motion on the email list and my question is procedural. I might be mistaken. I thought that it rolled over to the next meeting. Maybe I'm just missing it. Is it agendized or how does that work? Am I mistaken on how that, because I thought it rolled over if we had a pending motion.
I'm sorry, say that again.
We have Mr. Hagopian made a motion on the list to rescind. Am I missing? Am I just blind? Am I missing? Is it on here and I'm missing it? Or
no, it's an email motion and it's not up until Tuesday.
So if there's an open motion on the email list, it does not roll over to be agendized in the next meeting that takes place if it's not set to expire before then?
I don't believe so, because I believe it's still happening and no one noticed it.
Okay, I thought it happened automatically. That's why I was asking.
If you want to dig through the policy manual and then raise a point of order after you find that, I'll address it immediately.
Okay, I can look, but yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if you would like.
Well,
We have 5 seconds.
I was going to call on.
It's not in the policy manual. I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Yanuskavich?
Do we have any preliminary information on expenses for March?
Not yet, but we can in a little bit.
Yeah,
Like during this meeting, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I know what QuickBooks says, Madam Chair, and I don't know what has not been entered into QuickBooks yet. If you know what has not been entered into QuickBooks, we can.
Our operations director can tell you.
Okay. All right, perfect.
And she's going to give a report in just a little bit.
Okay, we'll wait.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
That is time. Sorry.
Oh, we're at time.
My comment's not important. It had to do with insurance.
Okay. Are we moving to the next agenda item, which is the secretary's report?
I have nothing further to add than is in the report, but would field any questions. Actually, I do have something to add. I'm so sorry. I'm a dummy. It'll be very quick. Have been engaging in trainings with tellers and feverishly involved with convention preparation on the secretary side, and that's it.
Okay. Any further, any questions for our secretary? All right. Up next, we have an operation director's report. We have staff reports. Ms. Kennedy, are you here?
Yes, I am.
All right. If there's no objection, we're going to go ahead and hear from our operations director, Ms. Kennedy. All right,
Okay,
go right
wonderful.
ahead.
Thank you. So I submitted a written report, so I won't go into terrible detail. I know you guys have a long meeting. There are a lot of details in there, but in the last quarter, we have been through a lot of changes. So it's not just our CRM, but the CRM touches a lot of things. There have been a lot of changes to our best practices for our accounting and FEC filing preparation. Our HQ closure has affected things massively. It's really been a major overhaul of all operations, which I've actually seen as a positive thing because it's forced us to go in and audit things and make sure that everything is being done correctly and the best it can possibly be done. So to cover membership first and get that out of the way, and everybody really likes to hear about that. Our sustaining membership has stabilized or has appeared to stabilize over the last 2 months. So in February, we had an increase of 0.06%, which is obviously, almost even, which is fine. But and then in March, looks like our increase was 0.19%. So at least the positive trajectory is up. We finally got a handle on a lot of the technical issues that have affected our ability to count membership quickly also, so we can get those membership reports out to you guys a lot quicker than we have been able to in the past. Hopefully that's something else again that we can almost automate once we move over to the Zoho CRM. Now there's still several manual processes. We've just eliminated a lot of the hangups and increased the workflow communication to make that better. And a note about the membership trajectory also, I've included this in the written portion, but with the migration of the headquarters to digital, I assumed responsibilities for the check entry. And I noticed that while I was doing that check entry, I would say 90%, potentially 95% of the mail-in contributions that we received were from donors who hadn't donated since 2022 or before. Most of the time, though, it was 2022. So it appears that the changes that we've done in our communications is now successfully capturing those lost memberships. So that's actually a very positive outlook, I would say. I hope that that continues and that it leads to more positive growth moving into the rest of the year. So to go over the HQ closure, primarily that turned out to be a cost saving measure. I included a chart that just shows the amount that it cost us to keep it open and have an employee physically there. So our total cost monthly was $5,970, and that's to have it staffed and open, which means over $71,000 annually. So since the digital migration, those expenses have been reduced to $460 a month or $5,500 a year. So represents a massive savings. No loss, I would say, in operational ability. And we've actually solved some major problems after the move. So I would say that really that's been an amazing change, considering the amount, we're saving $5,500 every month. And then there's also revenue potential on top of that if we're looking at renting out the building, which I know is something of a point of contention, but whether you do or not, it would represent another $5,000 to $7,000 in revenue. Now we come to the Zoho tools. So Zoho One is the inclusive subscription that we're using. And this is, instead of just having the CRM, Zoho One is like a suite of tools, and it covers everything from surveys to marketing campaigns to bookkeeping. I mean, if you need it as an organizational tool, it probably exists as a Zoho One app. And in order to take advantage, because we pay for Zoho One regardless of how many of their apps we use, I have been encouraging the staff to look into other apps that we could potentially pivot to or could provide cost saving measures in the future. I won't go into each one. There is one that I will address later in the report, but there is a list of apps that we've reviewed already and considered their business use cases, and we may implement as in the future as staff bandwidth allows. A large portion of the last month and a half of the quarter has been dedicated to the audit preparation. So there was a lot of documentation that needed to be pulled together to hand off to our auditor. You will see significant increases in the accounting line, and that's because the bookkeeping prior to bringing on our Veracity Pros, our accounting firm, was not terribly professional, and it needed to be professionalized. We needed to have good documentation, and we didn't have that. So we were kind of scrambling to make sure that the auditor had everything that they needed. So there's a few things that my primary goal is really to automate many of these processes so that it can withstand changes in leadership, changes in staff turnover, all of that. The organization should continue to function regardless of who sits in the operations director chair. So the first things that we needed to do was make sure that we were paying all of our taxes and make sure that we were in compliance with all of our, anything that covers our employees, such as our 401k, our withholding programs and so forth. So I'm pleased to report that since last quarter, we have successfully automated our sales tax as well as our unemployment tax. And now that's completely hands off for us. So the information flows into our accounting firm, just so that, they have the numbers to report to us. And then those reports get filed automatically with paychecks and in terms of our unemployment filings, and then with TaxJar in terms of our sales tax. So that cuts down on staff time. And that also cuts down on our accounting bills time. So again, another cost saving measure. There were less changes in the workforce prior to this report that I wrote. And now there have been more changes, but I'll just address the two that are in my report. We were very sad to say goodbye to Matt Thexton, who was our operations manager at HQ. he was wonderfully helpful, and the decision to part with Mr. Thexton was certainly not a result of performance or any reflection in any way on him. He did a wonderful job, and he was lovely to have on the team. It's just if you don't have a headquarters, then you unfortunately don't need a headquarters manager. Now that we are moving into automation and working on workflow operations such as like our social media management and organizational outreach, we did increase Miss Iris Pool's hours to full-time, and she's been taking over there. She's helping to run point between staff and the convention committee, doing a lot of work there. So we are pleased to have welcomed her more fully onto the team. To address one of the apps that I indicated earlier, one of the Zoho apps, the first one we investigated was a solution for our customer service platform. So Mr. Herrera and I piloted the migration of our info inbox into a more customer service friendly platform, which is Zoho Desk. That has been very, very nice. It's saving staff a lot of time. It has much better analytics. We are able to now really hone in on, what is our response time? Are we getting back to everyone in a timely fashion? Our target average is within 48 hours. So any ticket that comes in, that's from donors, affiliates, anybody, we are getting back to them within 48 hours. And a large percentage of those are one and done. So first contact solutions. And we are well under our time of 48 hours, and we are sitting at about 38 hours. We also hosted the LP masterclasses in January and February this year. We had 6 instructors and held 11 live classes covering a range of subject matter. Those were very successful. We had wonderful feedback on those. And thank you to all of our volunteer instructors. We are working on creating a library of content so that, because we did record all of those, so that we have more enduring resources available that we can make available to donors or affiliates or candidates. And then there's a list of LNC committee support that has been provided by staff and operations. But that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kennedy. Does anybody have any questions for our operations director? I know there were some questions about finances earlier and expenditures.
There's a couple hands raised, Madam Chair. I
Weird.
don't know if you see.
I do now. Mr. Tunevich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, hats off to Ms. Kennedy, not just for this report, but for the work she's been doing. I think the focus on process improvement, automation of tasks, in conjunction with the actions taken by the treasurer, and I'm sure she was involved with some of that to outsource some of the financial operations, is really the direction we should be heading. I'm very encouraged by that. So thank you. The only follow-up I had for her was regarding the master classes. She said they were successful. What kind of attendance have we been seeing on the master classes? What have they've been sort of ranging? Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. So we had a varied attendance depending on the class. I believe one of the highest in attendance was Carla Howell, and I believe we had 22 attendees in her first class. I believe that we could have done better marketing with as we moved through the classes, because we had wonderful responses for everyone's first time around. So the first class they gave, we had fantastic attendance. For subsequent classes, so those repeat classes in case someone missed it, we had attendance as low as 6 people.
Okay. Hey, you got to start somewhere. Thank you.
Madam Secretary?
Am I muted? I can't figure out if I'm muted. Tell me if no. Okay. God, I'm such a boomer sometimes, and I'm not even a boomer. Pardon me. I do have a terrible cold. I just wanted to thank Ms. Kennedy. I think she stepped into this role very seamlessly, and wanted to thank her for all the assistance she's rendered me in preparing for convention with really boring, unsexy, but important things like ordering the necessary supplies. So hats off to you, Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Hagopian.
Also wanted to express my gratitude, but everybody has already said it. Miss Kennedy's dug into some things that needed to be dug into, and I appreciate it. But real quick on the revenue and expenses, I know I get copied when we send the FEC stuff to Paula as we start to review it. But if you have projected revenue and expenses or approximate revenue expenses for March, I believe that was the question earlier.
Yes, of course. So I believe that Madam Chair shared the revenue, but I can certainly do that. It's we're sitting right now in city at 129,298.
Thank you.
And then give me just a moment and I will pop in and tell you those expenses. I apologize. I was trying to bring them up between the time that it was asked and I had to start giving my report. So bear with me one moment. So I'm seeing our current expenses at 97,702.
Okay, that is exactly what I was saying. I just didn't know if there were more that were set to be entered. So to your point, Madam Chair, if there are more, we will find out prior to sending it to the FEC. But at this point, your 90 non-convention versus our 97 in expenses is what we'll likely be looking at. Is that accurate, Hannah?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
There were a couple of expenses we wanted to cut that we didn't get to quite in time. So I think you might see that drop a little bit in April.
If I may, just to address that, you are absolutely correct. There are several things where, for instance, it's billed after we've used the service. So we may still have large payments upcoming, even if we've already reduced our cost. A great example of that is any payment that we make to Google. We will have realized that cost after we've used the service. So I believe we've made our last large payment to Google, and we can significantly downsize that expense, which represents about $1,500 in outgoing every month.
Ms. Yanuskevich?
I just want to join the choir here and thank Ms. Kennedy for all of her work. She's been very helpful during the audit process that we'll talk about later, getting all the documents very quickly and always has an answer to my questions or gets back to me very quickly. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary?
Forgot what I was going to say. I should have written it down. You know how I normally have a notebook. So I'll just get in line if I recall again. But I'll just join again in the Hug Fest.
Thank you. Mr. Nikela?
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to hop on the bandwagon and thank Ms. Kennedy for looking at ways to, of course, keep expenses in line and keeping a good vision for us. And I also wanted to thank staff in general for the work that's been done, especially up to convention with everything going on and recognizing opportunities for fundraising and all the other cool stuff that we're able to do. So thank you, Ms. Kennedy, and thank you to staff as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nikela. Mr. Malagon?
As Miss Kennedy's favorite LNC member, I'd be remiss if I didn't jump in and sing her praises as well. She's always been incredibly helpful. When I was COC chair, she always got back to me, would meet with me on Saturdays, take calls from me and get stuff to me immediately, and is still very helpful and does everything she can now. So thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Malagon.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Malagon. Oh, Ms. Hayes?
I just wanted to say, Hannah, you are not as good. No, I'm just kidding. Hannah, you actually rock. You're incredibly professional, and I'm very glad that we have you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, if there's no other questions, everyone, we are going to potentially jump to our next agenda item. So let's take a look actually and see where we're at on the agenda, because we're also going to take a break at some point. We've finished officer reports and staff reports. Oh, Mr. Andy Bukovich. Apparently 100,000 people in Denver are out of power. And he texted me an update because he has a little bit of his cell phone battery left. He says, for IT, here's the highlights of his report. Google is archived off and full licenses have been suspended, securing long-term storage, and then Google will be completely deleted. The dedupe data cleanup in Zoho is happening right now by the contractors. I'm working on getting payment pages created in Zoho, and then we're no longer in Civi for national staff purposes. Sam Bowler is doing an excellent job of getting infra stood up for Civi infrastructure that will make it quicker and easier for us to make improvements for the states as we have more time to focus on them as we get fully into Zoho. So those are updates from IT. And apologies that he's not able to be here, but he has no power. Okay, Madam Secretary, can you correct me if I'm wrong? It looks like the next thing on the agenda is the convention committee report. Then we roll into financial discussion, and then we do the rest of the standing committee reports and region reports.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We need to take a break at some point. I need to go check on my baby. I think now is a good time to take a 20 to 30-minute break.
Here, here.
Before that, Madam Chair, I move to get Mr. Bukovich some power. I think that that's kind of cruel
We have no
that he
power.
doesn't.
He's powerless.
Well, that's a shame. Motion failed.
Mr. Blankenship?
Madam Chair, I'm would be remiss if I didn't say, as a member of the Convention Oversight Committee and as someone who has to step out to see a doctor at 6 p.m., if we could do the Convention Oversight Committee prior to the break, that would be preferred. But also, I fully trust the rest of the members on the committee to handle it if I'm not there to provide assistance. But I figured I would mention that.
So I don't mind giving a report and summary, but I want to make sure that, let's see, you've got 13 minutes.
I've got a little bit of wiggle room, but my appointment's at 6:30 and I have to be on the road, so I'm not sure how loud it will be while driving to the appointment from 6 to 6:30.
Okay. So I have
It's
a
only
baby.
2:47, so he should be fine.
That's right. I have a baby crying really loudly right now. And I need to go check on him soon because it's been a while. But I can get into it and just like give an update. But I anticipated that there was going to be like a lot of questions and deep digging.
Madam Chair, I'm not offended at all if you want to handle it without me on the call.
Are we okay with doing an overview and taking a break and taking it back up after the break?
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
I honestly, no offense, Mr. Blankenship, I think once we get into it, all that's going to happen is Ms. McCardle is going to end up repeating the overview. I think we should go to a break now so that when we're in convention mode, we're in convention mode. Sincerely, no apologies. And also, just on behalf of Mr. Malagon, I am urging mercy because he needs to go do a beer run.
There is a report on the OneNote if anybody wants it.
Madam
One
Chair.
slight correction. It's a Scotch run, not beer. I have one beer left.
I heard.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I didn't see the link to the OneNote in the chat before it was closed off.
Tiny URL. It's on. I'm pretty sure it's on the list, but it's. Can you share it, Madam Secretary? Tiny URL.
Certainly. It's been on the list multiple times.
Yeah.
But I will share my screen here.
There you go.
The live notes, which are always tinyurl.com/LNC live notes. The tiny URL is always in the header of the live notes.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to move that we recess for 30 minutes and we come back at 6:20 p.m. Eastern. We're going to take up the convention committee report immediately followed by financials. I think the two of them go well together because we're going to be discussing financials in both of the reports.
Is
Madam
20
Chair,
minutes
point of
long
order.
enough?
That would be 30 minutes. 20 after.
Thank you.
Or point of information, rather.
Yes.
So do we just leave everything untouched since we're going to be stepping away,
Yep.
everything just remains open and then we come back in 30 minutes?
Yep. Just mute, hit your video.
Understood. Thank you.
Got it. Needs a second.
Second.
I'll
All right.
second.
All right, moved and seconded for a 30-minute break. Any objections? All right, hearing none, we are going to be on a break. Please be back promptly at 30 minutes. Thank you all.
Thanks, Madam Secretary, for that link again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mr. Tanyevich.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You keep my seat warm for me. Nice of you. Teacher.
Don't know who's doing the nice burping, but good job.
Seemed rather intentional. It was
Was
silent.
Was it you, Dustin?
It was not me, but it seemed intentional.
You need to go outside?
Yes, I do. I would love to go outside.
I would too. Will you take me for a walk, please? A nice walk and
Yeah,
throw a tennis ball.
it's a very nice day. Well, at least by Ohio standards today. It's 60 degrees and sunny right now. So
Ohio's not real. Come on.
That's what it was in Philadelphia.
It's nice here in Colorado. I mean, it's warm. It's nice.
supposed to be very nice for the eclipse here tomorrow. If as long as the clouds stay away, it's supposed to be 72 degrees. So it's going to be very nice tomorrow for people wanting to watch the eclipse.
I've got a terrible cold, so traveling to Denver is not pleasant with a 4-hour commute to there to back when you're not feeling well.
It's been 78 degrees and sunny for the last week in Florida. Thank you.
Hey guys, can I do a time check? When did we say we were getting back?
Oh my God, I don't know. I know it's coming close because I ate 2 rounds of like queso fundita.
We said 6:20 because we broke at 5:50.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, perfect. I'll be back at 6:20. Thanks, guys.
And I'm asking the chair as well, if that's her understanding. I know Adrian is on his way back from his liquor run. Travis, you don't have to raise your hand. This is kind of like Thunderdome right now.
Yes, if y'all guys heard me cutting my grass, I apologize to that. And is there a public comment at the end?
Let me see on the agenda. I think there is, depending upon time. Hold on, let me look.
There is on the agenda. I've noticed it.
Okay, there typically is. That's kind of my doing because sometimes people have things to say on things that happened. And I always wished like our town council would have public comment at the end. But the public comment at the end is shorter, maximum of 1 minute per commenter for 10 minutes, but that can always be extended.
I will be requesting.
And we are going to be going into executive session at some point. So the way the agenda looks, very quick, just supplements. So we have the Convention Oversight Committee report, which might be extensive. Then supplements only to written reports of Region 1, Region 2, and Region 5 and Region 0. Then ballot access and audit in the reverse order. Then executive session of a financial discussion. Then we'll come back for public comment. But what I might do, because there's been no noticed motions coming out of executive session, I might move to amend the agenda to have public comment before we go into executive session. Because coming out of executive session, we're just going to adjourn. There's been no notice motions. So that way people don't have to sit around and wait for us to come out of executive session. I think that's more courteous.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And we can speak to anything during public comment as long as it's not obscene or,
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Remind me when we come back, because I might forget that I want to move the agenda to do that, but I think that's much more courteous. And the topics for the executive session are Oh, there might be a motion. I'm still going to move public comment first. There might be a motion. Apologies. Financial discussion and approve line of credit under terms secured by chair and treasurer of up to $250,000 secured by Alexandria property. So if during executive session it's decided to do that, that motion will take place outside of executive session. But that will be the only motion. So if anyone wants to make comment on that, if we move public comment prior to executive session, it allows us to take into consideration the comment.
So we would have another motion after executive session.
If executive session decides that's what they want to do.
Gotcha.
That was noticed. I forgot that was noticed.
Well, Brittany said that someone's commented on their drive to see the eclipse. We're driving 6 hours to Pittsburgh, then 2 hours to Erie for the fundraising event for LPPA, then 2 hours back to Pittsburgh, and then 6 hours back outside of Philly. So we're doing
TJ,
16 hours.
TJ, since we are in like a downtime, I wanted to interact a little bit with your public comment, which I take very seriously, about the convention fundraiser. And we don't have to agree, you know.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, good.
We don't have to agree.
But I'd like to give you another perspective. And that is the complaint has been made. Well, there's two. One, it's custom that we do tokens. That's actually really new. It used to be that the National Party did not put on a debate. It was put on by an outside group. It was usually the LSLA, and they had free reign. They could charge admission. They could do any number of things. So if it's a custom, it's a very weak custom, and it's not in our rules and bylaws. But it actually is pay to play right now with the token system. It's only the people who go to convention, which is a fraction of the party, and this is a very expensive convention. So the complaint I've heard is I'm spending $4,000, whatever it might be, to go to convention, and I don't get to vote with tokens. Meanwhile, what I'm hearing from other members of the party is this is our candidate. These delegates already have the privilege on voting who our candidate is. I should at least be able to have a say with my $5 or $10 as to who gets to be on C-SPAN. So
I had 3 presidential candidates that came to me, and I'm not going to give their names out because I
already
respect
know
for their
2 of them,
campaigns,
so that's okay.
But basically, it was said, well, one candidate's a millionaire and can bankroll his own way on.
True.
So he's already got a spot.
But
so
that candidate, can I just let's respond one point at a time. Yeah, one point at a time. That candidate is already one of our top candidates. And even if he couldn't bankroll his spot on, he was going to have a spot on. He has a lot of supporters.
Correct.
And if he threw in the maximum donation and didn't get the nomination, guess who that benefits? Our candidate who gets to, because that money, let's be real here, is most likely nearly all of it going to go to ballot access. And whoever is our eventual winner, there are 5 spots. One candidate could bankroll his spot on. If he's not our nominee, thank you. You just bankrolled ballot access for our eventual nominee.
I think we have to do a better job of articulating that then to the party and to the candidates. If we did it that way, I think it's a matter of perception too. Like also when I look on the website, I mean, you were in the group chat with me, like we have people that aren't FEC filed there as a pitcher for donations. Like Art Olivier is not filed with the FEC. I've looked him up multiple times, yet he's on our website. I think everyone who's filed with the FEC should have a slot, whether they're a name or not. But if they filed as a Libertarian with the FEC, we should put their name up and they should be able to get donations for their people. If they have not filed, they get removed from that site. If we're going to do it that way, that's the way we have to do it. Like if they're not filed as Libertarian,
I would suggest you bring that up with Angela as far as the people who aren't on there that are FEC filers. But I will say I disagree with you on FEC filing. I know people have various feelings today, but in 2016, I worked on the Darryl Perry campaign. And as a libertarian, he had a principled objection to filing with the FEC, and he was willing to go to jail for that. And since we do not believe the FEC should even exist, I would be adamantly opposed to excluding a candidate who has declared for our party that refuses to file with the FEC if the reason is that they have a principled objection. I don't know why Art hasn't filed, but knowing him very briefly, I bet it's a principled objection. And if that candidate is willing to go to jail for it.
Hey, guys.
Okay, Angela's back. I'm gonna shut up now.
All right. Let's do a little informal roll call check.
I don't know if
Scroll down the list.
Adrian's back. He said he was on his way back.
I'm back.
Are you here? Thank you.
Meredith is here. I'm switching devices, so just give me a second.
Treasurer's back.
I mean, I could do another roll call if you wish. I'm going to take off this.
Actually, yes, if you don't mind, let's just go ahead and do that.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just copy this. God, I hate Google sometimes. It will not let me. Well, I'm just going to highlight the people that were here before and were not here afterwards. So Chair McCardle is here. Mr. Watkins.
I'm here.
Mr. Hagopian.
Here.
I am here. I know Mr. Blankenship had to leave, so let me make sure. Mr. Blankenship? Mr. Malagon?
Present.
Mr. Nikala?
I'm here.
Mr. Rufo?
I'm here.
Ms. Yanuskavich?
Here.
Mr. Benner?
I am here.
Mr. Dassing?
Here.
Mr. Ford? Mr. Ford? Okay, I will raise him on signal. Mr. Heyman?
Present.
Ms. Hayes?
I'm here. Mrs. Hayes is my mother.
I've known Daniel Hayes for so long, it gets me confused. I always want to say
You know what's
Mr.
crazy? My dad is Daniel Hayes as well, but we spell it differently.
Mr. Nana?
I am here.
Mr. Tunyevich?
Here.
Ms. Best?
Ms. Vest let me know she had to step away and will not be here during the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Alvstead?
Present.
Mr. Burke? Mr. Cowan?
Present.
Mr. Dar?
Present.
Mr. Hall? Okay, he wasn't here before, so I'm assuming he's still not. Mr. Hirsch?
Here.
Mr. Hyman?
I am here.
And I know Mr. Redpath couldn't be here. So, Madam Chair, we still have absent regional alternates, Mr. Burke, Mr. Hall, and Mr. Redpath, but we are now missing at large Mr. Blankenship, Mr. Ford, meaning there's no one from Region 8, and Ms. Vest, which means Mr. Dar will step in for Ms. Vest.
Got it. Thank you very much. All right. Trying to look up one thing that wasn't in the report to see if I can find it.
And I'm going to try to raise Mr. Ford. We were just chatting a moment ago.
Okay. We are not doing public comment yet. I see a hand raised, but we're not going to be able to do that until.
Madam.
Yes.
I'm trying to raise my hand. I actually have a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay.
I would like to move to amend the agenda to move the closing public comment before we go into that long executive session on financial goals, so that for any public comment about the potential of taking out that line of credit can be heard and people don't have to sit around and we can just adjourn afterwards.
Okay. Do you want to be specific about when that would be?
It's just moving it before we move into executive session to discuss financial goals.
Okay, that's totally fine with me. That needs a second.
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to move closing public comment prior to us going into executive session to discuss financial matters. Any objections? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing none, the agenda is amended. All right. So we're on the convention committee right now. I'm going to give a report. The report is in the OneNote. I'm going to go over the highlights of it, even though it's in the OneNote, and then I'm going to answer questions on it. TJ Pereira helped me a whole lot with this. We had a meeting with the hotel yesterday. And at this point on, we're going to be able to meet with them about once a week until the convention comes up. We need to spend contractually $105,000 on food and beverage with the hotel. We've currently raised more than $130,000, which is great. Convention attendees have to reserve at least 75% of the rooms in the room block. We've already booked over 84%. We have asked the hotel several times to increase the room block. And every time we do, we are told, we put in the request, we think it's increasing. We're not getting a lot of really clear communication, like really prompt on the status of the room block, but eventually we hear back it's been increased. So as of today, it's been increased. If you need your rooms, jump in and get them. We've got to pay for our hotel rooms, obviously used by staff, volunteers, speakers, suites sold. It's about $30,000 in expected hotel room costs. Some of those costs don't end up showing up if you sell the suites. Make sure you guys are muted. The AV contract is not final. I saw that I got an email from Jerry today, and I haven't had a chance to look into it, but that's our AV contractor. Should be in the $70,000 range. We've gotten several quotes for convention bags, printing the binders, speakers. It's all expected to be around $35,000. We're going to go with the lowest quote. Printing and everything has to be finished 2 weeks prior. I think we're pushing for it to be 3 weeks prior. I know that there have been concerns about the bylaws and platform committee. We're still working that out. I'm inclined to put in QR codes in case anything is not delivered on time or gotten to us in enough time, and have the volunteers and the committees help to print out platform and bylaws committee reports and put them in the binders at the convention. So that's, plan A right now. We anticipate there's going to be miscellaneous costs. So we want to set aside, a $20,000 buffer for anything that could potentially come up. All told, we need to make $230,000 to $260,000 across all of our revenue streams to break even. And we are thankfully on track for that. We had, let's see, can admit him. Convention packages, let's see, with additional sales. Well, I'll just go through the breakdown. At the end of the month, we had about $114,000 in sales. $31,875 of that were essentials packages. We sold 36 market packages, 32 entertainment, 67 premier, 8 presidential. We did 4 upgrades. We made additional sales this week since those costs. $3,665. We sold Premier Market Essentials and some gala tickets as well. Suite sales. Sales are 12K with an estimated 35K more coming. We sold the presidential suite. We lowered the cost. We sold it right away. We have a chief of state suite. We're going to probably lower this cost as well. Calorama, lowered the cost. We sold one, and then another one is pledged to be purchased this week. Capital City executive level king bed. We still have these. We would love to sell them. I think I'm not 100% sure if this is accurate at this point. I think we might have sold one. Basically, once we started lowering the cost of these things, they started selling and people started showing renewed interest. I know that we have at least 2K in table sales this week. All of the area D tables have sold out, and I don't have the exact number of sales for them. And I know that we've sold some B and C. I think we've only sold 2 tables for area A. So I don't have all the revenue for this. The total revenue when I get to the end is missing the table sales. Sorry about that. We are going to begin allowing people to choose their tables on maps for areas A, B, and C. I know some people expressed frustration that you couldn't pick your table out. We're going to let you pick your table out, and we're going to handle it as quickly as possible. If you want a table now because you can pick it, please email me. I'll make sure you get it. Offsets 14K. LP gets a $5 credit off our final bill for every room night sold. So that means if you are booking your rooms at the hotel, that's great. That's very helpful. We get $5 off our bill. We don't have an exact number right now, but we expect that amount total to be $8,000, which is great. We also get a free room night for each 40 room nights sold. We'll expect that amount to be around $6,000. That's how we got the 14K. A la carte tickets. The exact amount of a la carte packages I sold right now, I'm not 100% sure, but it's at least $1,000 in sales based on what I counted today. Dave Smith talk breaks down to $875. Robert Breedlove is $125. Now, the packages that we've sold, they already include, a lot of them include lunches. So these are just a la cartes. Meeting room sales, as of the 31st, we'd sold $1,500 worth because we lowered the cost. I think that we're going to sell about 40K total. So we're still working on that and getting the word out. I'll put it on the list later. I need to make sure that it's reflected on the website. And there were several people who were interested in meeting rooms earlier and who'd turn it down because of the cost. So we just need to spread the word. These are the new prices. I'll put it on the list for you guys later. Delegation floor screen advertising. We've sold $400 worth of them. 3 people have expressed interest and they're waiting on the dimensions. So I just need to get back to them on that. Presidential straw poll. I've gotten a lot of comments about this. We've raised $2,809 as of the middle of this day. A couple more have come in since then, like during the course of the meeting. I get that it's controversial. I also, get that a whole lot of people who, are on this call, quite actually, are hell-bent on starving the convention and putting us, in financial risk. You delight in it. It's really unfortunate that you would do that, because even if you want to take the party back, if you don't like me, if you don't like the LNC, you should want to take good care of the organization. And this has been a way to help make up for the revenue that a lot of people don't want to give. So I get that it's controversial. I understand that not everybody's happy with it. I think it was the right thing to do. And I gave a little bit of pushback on this initially because I thought, oh, it's going to upset people, And I let the committee go ahead and do it. I believe they made the right call. And as controversial as it is, I stand by it. It's also possible that we're going to receive a large gift towards the convention before April 20th. That's still confidential right now, but I'm working on it very aggressively. Total revenue as of today, minus table sales and a couple of other miscellaneous things, is $135,375. Promotional strategies. What have we done, especially recently in the last couple of weeks? Mailer got sent out to our past delegates. That went to the mailing provider this past week. Calls are going to be made by the LNC and the COC. to encourage people to purchase packages. You have been voluntold. We are gearing up for daily social media promotions. There has been some pain in this, absolutely. It has been challenging to get all of the social media volunteers on the same page with it. I think we're getting there. So for anybody who volunteers on social media and has helped make this happen, thank you. We want to spread word about the convention. We want to do it in a way that doesn't throttle our algorithm, but above all, we need to drive revenue and attendance at these events. We are building up to daily email promotions. I have been working with staff to increase the number of convention promotions from 2 a week to 5. We're almost there. We're not there yet. Considering that we just had some layoffs, a lot of work has been placed onto two other staff members. They're extremely saturated. I'm trying to help a little bit as well, but we're getting there. The number of promotions are increasing. We're also going to be doing online advertising by Google AdWords and Meta, but we're going to discuss probably in executive session how much we want to spend on that. And the reason we would be discussing in an executive session is because we'd be potentially talking about contracts with third-party vendors who would be helping us. And then we have some additional promotional opportunities with Zero Hedge and Gas Digital Network, which we'll also discuss in more detail in executive session. So I actually think that our convention is going to do really well. So does TJ. We did a lot of work on this. Andrew and Kathy have been helping us with the finances too. So thank you very much. Thank you to Jennifer and the other members of the committee who've been helping us, with speakers and events and entertainment and just answering people's questions in general. That is my overview of the COC. See, there's some hands up. Let me start with our secretary.
I think Mr.
Madam Chair, I had
Maldonado
my
was
hand
first.
raised first. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Go right ahead.
And if the secretary and the treasurer will indulge me a bit, I have a few questions and possibly some corrections here. I guess my first one is right off the bat, it says that the LP must spend $105,000 on food and beverages with the hotel. Where did that number come from? Because that's not what's in the contract.
From crunching numbers with TJ and our meeting with the hotel.
So I just want to be clear, in the contract, it states that it's $75,000 before fees, gratuity, and services are added on. So I just want to make that really clear.
It should
so the
come
105
out,
doesn't.
Does
Well,
it not
right, but
come-
there's, I mean, it could come around there, but there's also a factor in here that was kind of looked over, and I want to see where we're at if that happened at all, which is that the hotel offered a 10% off the initial food and beverage without the fees and gratuity, so off the actual price of the meal before anything. Is that still in the works to be done, getting that 10% off? So the deadline did not pass. There was a menu submitted, and what happens after?
We had a meeting with them Saturday. She jumped on the meeting Friday and had an emergency, and we met on it Saturday and had a whole discussion about everything getting submitted. And then she asked us to submit everything finally on Monday, which is tomorrow, with the 10% discount.
Okay, so everything is going to be taken care of by this Monday, I suspect. Is that what
Tomorrow.
you're referring to?
Yeah.
Or tomorrow? So yeah. Okay.
At her request.
So the next thing is that the second point is that the 75% of room nights contracted. I just want to make sure that the chair understands that that's for food and beverage plus rooms. It's not just a room situation.
Yeah.
Per the contract, that's a combined. So it's not based on room nights contracted. I just want to be clear that that's the thing. I'm just curious about a lot of these things because I don't share the chair's optimism in the success of convention. Just another thing. So some things don't seem to be updated based on the spreadsheet unless you and Mr. Ferrer are working off a different budget than the one that was initially revised by me in December. Like the AV contract it shouldn't be in the $70,000 range. That's concerning. The quote that was sent by Mr. Hafner was at least $85,000, not even counting what has to be paid for in the hotel or the additional requests that were made. So that should be closer to 100,000. So when I asked the chair if the budget had been revised, it doesn't appear, unless you're working off of something else, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't appear to be the case. Nothing has been updated on the expenses.
Conversation I had with him, which was Monday.
Okay, so not the, so the contract that was sent over is irrelevant at that point. It's going to be 70, and the $70,000 number includes the 6,000 from the hotel.
I don't know that it includes the 6,000 from the hotel.
Okay, because that's accounted for in the initial budget that was drawn out, just to be clear. So that's problematic for me. I do just want to note that the presidential suite that sold at a discount was something that was sold by Miss Yanuskavich when I was still chair. So that's kind of a moot point there. Another thing that concerns me is the presidential poll, but not for the reasons that other people. So we've already had Mr. Hornberger and Mr. Olivier drop out. Is that money going to be? Well, I think Mr. Hornberger had $11. So I don't know if the person is going to get their $11 back. But what happens if more presidential candidates start dropping out and they don't want to be associated with this quote unquote scheme? Which, for the record, I don't think it is a scheme, but it seems that there's at least some collusion on some of them to drop out. What happens if the rest of them drop out? What happens to that money?
We don't issue refunds based on what someone else wants us to do with someone else's money. We have a 30-day policy for refunds. And the only person who gets a refund is the person who spent the money. So, Jacob Hornberger doesn't get to decide what we do with someone else's money.
No, correct. So just to make sure I understand. So if someone paid, we'll use him as an example, because the $11, if they want an $11 refund, they would be entitled to that refund within 30 days. Is that correct?
They need to ask for it within 30 days.
Okay. Is there something I've been asked about this a lot too, and this is something that I pushed for once upon a time. There's nothing on the website that suggests that there is a refund policy solidified. So I would just ask that the chair perhaps put something on the website making that very clear, because that a lot of people have questions about that.
Sure. I believe staff put it on the website, but I'll double check to make sure it's on the convention website as well.
Okay, I think that's it for now. I just wanted to be clear. I think the rest of the stuff would be best suited for executive session when we get to that point.
Sure. Okay, was our secretary next?
Yes, I believe so, Madam Chair. Am I unmuted? I'm an idiot. Yes, okay. I think you did address one of the things. I think having a QR code is a good backup. But the platform committee and excuse me, I have a terrible cold. The bylaws and rules committee, we are prepared to have volunteers to insert in the reports, but just wanted to be clear that the printing of the reports would still be a party expense.
Oh, yeah. That's
Okay,
fine.
that's what I told them, but
I mean, we'll have to break it out by volunteers and staff who does actual printing at the end of the day, but it's a moving target.
Yeah, and I told them it's pretty much our sweat equity, though it's still possible that bylaws might have their report and on time. And just an FYI, I hope to upgrade my essentials package and encourage everyone on the LNC, if they can afford to. I understand it's a bad economy, but I have to tell you, if I hear all of this, strom and therm about how money's not being raised, but you can afford to upgrade your package and haven't, I just discount it. You have to put your money where your mouth is. Lastly, I didn't know if we wanted to discuss so that it was openly public, the literature policy. I leave that to the chair's discretion. And the last concern I had, and this was a concern of the bylaws committee, and platform, but I think it's a general concern of the entire party. I'm wondering if the chair can have a meeting or give us some kind of insight on the Wi-Fi connection issue at the hotel. As we know, when we had an LNC meeting there, it was like being, I'm sure Mr. Maligan can tell me what level of Dante's Inferno it was, but it was definitely one of those levels. And I was on the LNC.
It was the fifth circle, Madam Secretary.
Yeah, thank you. I was on the LNC that approved this contract, and we were assured, I'm not suggesting that a past convention oversight committee misled the LNC. I am potentially suggesting that we were misled by a hotel representative, that there would be no problem with Wi-Fi. And I think we all know there is a problem with Wi-Fi. So I'm hoping the chair can get some concessions from the hotel. And if not, perhaps discounted rates where groups can buy a hard line, like it would be a hard line added package. where they would have their own secure password. This would be for caucuses, this would be for states, it would be for other special interest groups. But I am deeply, deeply concerned about the connection down there, to the point that in my teller training, I have a backup how will we count on paper option. That's how deeply concerned I am. It's not the fault of the past LNC. It's not the fault of this LNC. It's just reality. It's the cold equations. And I think we need to do some really hard planning on what to do about this brutalist architecture that has 3-foot thick cement walls and we're below grade.
All right. Well, I hear you, but we discussed that in detail in our meeting on Saturday. I'm still not persuaded that she really understands how awful it was, but we're gonna address it again in our next meeting this coming week. I mean, yes, it's absolutely a concern, and I hear you, and we're gonna make sure it's addressed. We're gonna make sure that you can, plug in with a cable, and same for the tellers. We'll take care of you for sure.
And did we wish to discuss the literature policy or not, Madam Chair?
If you want to.
I would just, rather than going into detail, I would suggest people go to the convention website. There's actually very many awesome things under this tab. If you go to lnc2024.com, go to documents, you'll find there the delegation chair manual, the delegate manual, all kinds of interesting documents, but the literature policy is also there. My goal is that nobody be blindsided by it and that they're fully familiar with it and they can direct questions to the Convention Oversight Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hagopian?
Yep, just a couple of quick comments on the debate and then some comments on the cost. So really quick from the discussion right before you hop back on, Madam Chair, if we can somewhere, and if it's already there, I apologize, make it clear how one would get on that website and what requirements there might be. For example, do they have to have been a sustaining member and signed the pledge? Do they have to have an FEC website? Blah, 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 just to make it clear how somebody gets on that website. I think that would cover off some of the concerns. The other comments I have veer more towards the decision for the fundraiser. And I'm just going to say, I think it's the height of hypocrisy for people to think that this is out of line. We spend 6 figures to put towards ballot access. The nominee of the party gets multi-million dollars worth of ballot access for free once they get nominated. If you want our party's nomination, you need to be able to mobilize your supporters. And we're going to have the same number of candidates on the stage as we had in 2020 and 2016. Yep. It's going to be the top 5, just like the last 2 nominations. So I just think it's the height of hypocrisy. Almost every argument I've encountered on this has been silly once you've broken it down. So I just want to put that out there, that it's really angering me, especially from the people who say that we need to do better job at raising money. This is where we're doing a better job at raising money. Put your money where your mouth is, get behind your candidate, put them on the stage. All right, going to costs real quick. I think I heard 230 to 260 is the estimate. Just from a cash flow perspective, and if you want to take this into exec session, let me know, but is there an idea of when those outflows are more than what you said in your intro? Thank you.
Wait, I just didn't understand your last sentence.
Yeah, sorry. Is it like 100,000 due on Monday and then 200,000 on Tuesday, or is a whole bunch due the day after convention? I'm trying to figure
the days that things are due. Yeah. I'll pull it up for executive session because there are specific deadlines. AV is due a certain day. Okay. It's just going to take me a minute to pull it up.
That's fine. And it probably has to do with contracts. I just want to be able to get
it. Does, and it's not all on the same day. There's certain portions.
Okay.
But we should discuss that before we discuss the line of credit. Because I think convention sales are going to come in just fine. And then there's a couple other things that I want to mention regarding that. If everything is fine, we may not need it, but I think that we should still probably.
And that's my last comment, is just that I believe that we don't need it unless there are things that I don't know. And that's why I'm asking some of these questions. So I'll save it for executive.
I want to talk in executive session about like some potential pledges and sponsorships. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot publicly,
Yeah.
Because I don't have any money in my hand yet, but
Yeah.
it's been talked about.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yep, Mr. Ford, and then we're gonna go to TJ Ferreira.
Simply put, who is the single contact, the point of contact in their contact information if someone listening or someone who's friends with somebody listening wants to spend money on the convention, whether it be advertising, tabling, a booth, or a suite?
Right here. That's me.
Okay, so all of those inquiries should be directed towards your chair email
Yes.
then.
And if there's
Alright.
anything I can't get to quickly, I will immediately pass it to Andrew Watkins, TJ Ferreira, Jennifer, Kathy, someone else on the committee, but I'm picking them up pretty quickly.
Fair enough. Thank you.
You got it. TJ Ferreira. If there's no objection, can we hear from TJ, who's on the Convention Oversight Committee?
No objection.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to answer any of the detailed questions that Adrian or anyone else had, make myself available. I have reviewed the contract and I was on the call with the hotel. The contract is one of the best convention contracts that I've ever seen negotiated. So to the team that did that, I give them props. That was very good to be able to hold a convention in DC for as little money as we're having to put out. I think there was a question about the 105,000. That is the $75,000, and then there's a tax and gratuity fees on top of that, and then it is discounted by the 10%. So it is taken into account the various aspects of the contract that are there. We did talk to the hotel about the Wi-Fi. They're going to run some tests, and I believe we're going to have one of the staff members go there and also run some tests. I know that when we were in Monroe, I was there for that meeting, that it was terrible, but the convention's not being held in Monroe. It is in the International Ballroom, which supposedly has much better AV and internet capabilities, but we will double check that. The hotel is also working with us on some neat new features that they're rolling out, as far as making sure that we're all well lubricated during the convention. And so I'm pretty excited about where this stands at the moment. And I want to thank all the members that have worked at various times on the convention oversight committees that has made this happen. And you guys have all done a great job.
Thank you, Mr. Tunyevich.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is for you or for TJ, but while I hope that everyone who's on the call and more broadly will buy packages, I know that people to some extent are voting with their wallets by not doing so. So this question is about, how do we recognize those delegates? I don't mean like applaud. How do we recognize those delegates who are not buying package but are simply elected delegates from their state? Do they still get a name badge, for example? How are we going to recognize them to note, okay, that person is a delegate?
Oh, same as last time. People get name badges. They may not
Okay.
get the nice lanyard that everybody else gets, but historically we've always had people have a badge so that they can be credentialed and have a delegate ribbon.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Malagon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in response to Mr. Ferrara's comments, some of those questions were rhetorical. I mean, I am looking at some of the spreadsheets and I have the contract in front of me. I just want to be clear that I didn't step down as COC chair because I couldn't do it. I have 2 very successful conventions under my belt here in California. There were external factors to that. So anyway.
Thank you. Madam Secretary? You are muted.
I hate Zoom. Okay, to answer, I think it was Mr. Tunyevich's question. The COC had decided that everyone must register, which means they get a name badge. It isn't just people who have packages that, any organization would want to capture the data of everyone who comes through its doors on an event that it's paying for. So whether it's a printed name badge or, from an actual, printer or a handwritten one, everyone will register and get some sort of name badge. But I don't think the Credentials Committee has decided yet. I can tell you that I did not recommend ribbons for credentialing, though I do love ribbons, and I think there should be a crap ton of ribbons. For credentialing, I've noticed in past conventions, and when I talk past conventions, I'm talking 20 years ago, They used to give buttons out for delegates. So that way a delegate could easily pass their button onto an alternate that's taken their place. Whereas you cannot so easily detach a ribbon that's in this long line of 30 ribbons. So I don't know what credentials has decided. That will be a credential committee decision, but I think they are leaning towards buttons, and every alternate and delegate will get some kind of visible credential.
All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. I'll make sure to communicate with Josh Lavka. Any other questions? All right, I will encourage you all to buy packages. Buy your packages. Let's jump to our next agenda item. Sorry, I'm pulling up the agenda. All right, next up is financial discussion and approve line of credit under terms secured by chair and treasurer of up to $250,000 secured by Alexandria property.
Madam Chair, we amended the agenda.
What's,
to have closing public comment.
You're right. I'm so sorry. Yeah, let's go ahead and do closing public comment. Okay, if you want to give public comment, go down to the bottom, click raise hand. If you don't see it, you might want to click reactions more than raise hand. This public comment is going to be 1 minute. 1 minute. Please time yourselves. I hate cutting people off, but I have to do it just so that we can stay on track. All right, let's go ahead and get started with Mr. Jonathan Jacobs.
Madam Chairman, I did want to encourage you to continue the support of the Michigan lawsuit that is coming up that is going on the automated list. I also did wish to clarify something. Yes, I did file a appeal in Michigan with their JC. I filed it 10 days after their lawsuit was filed. And it dealt with a total of 5 delegates. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next we have, actually, Mr. Ford, we'll come back to, we're going to do non-LNC first. Mr. Travis Bost.
Good afternoon again. I just wanted to mention for anyone that's listening, Spike Cohen is debating David Hogg on Wednesday the 10th at 6 p.m. Eastern at Dartmouth College. And there are watch parties across the country. Check Spike's social media or check with your local chairs to attend one of those. Thank you. The topic is on gun control.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Bost. Up next, we have Scotty Bowman.
On March 9th, the Libertarian Party of Michigan had a convention explicitly, well, and there were other things, other business conducted, but the primary purpose of that convention was the nomination of Michigan delegates to the National Convention. There was a vote, the votes were counted. We have a list. However, there have been murmurings among our own leadership in Michigan of not honoring the list, which was voted on by one of the best attended conventions in the past 20 years, at least. And at this point, really the only reason that there was a lawsuit was because of murmurings that this list would not be honored and that our leaders would not do their responsible duty and send a list to the National Credentials Committee in time for it to be properly recognized. Any lawsuit against that is effectively a lawsuit against the Michigan delegation, and in a way,
that's time.
National Party versus the Libertarian Party of Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Up next, we have George Phillies.
Madam Chair, in her excellent report, your operations director dropped two interesting numbers. The first was the very sharp observation that something like 90% of the checks coming in were from people who had not been a member or whatever in a while, say since 2022. I think that's the number she used. If you're getting large numbers of new contributors in, and your sustaining membership looks to be stable, you might ask exactly what's going on with people renewing, or whether it's just that's the way the numbers work out. It's something that has to be looked at. Second, there was a quote which I didn't hear being read, but maybe I just missed, that the EOM had dropped to a number under $50,000, and I would think that's significant. I'm sure Mr. Hagopian can fill in on the details on that. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Up next, we have Mimi Robeson.
I just want to thank you all for this meeting. I've found it to be really open and transparent, and I very much appreciate all of the information that you've presented. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And that's it. I yield my time.
You are welcome. Mr. Ford?
I'm speaking as in my capacity as a member of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. We've got some great news. We've got ballot reform, I should say party reform legislation on tap at the General Assembly. What's amazing about it is threefold. Number one of the sponsors is part of the Democratic State Party leadership, and he runs the Elections and Government Committee where it's being heard. Number two, we had the support of, while we were doing the legislation, the support of the Secretary of State directly, as well as the head of, if you will, his election organization within the formal Secretary of State's office of Rhode Island. We testified, members of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island and Massachusetts both testified, and incredibly enough, the Secretary of State, head of his elections committee, testified in his official capacity that they were endorsing our legislation. We formed a political action committee called River PAC, Rhode Islanders for Voter Election Reform. We're asking for contributions, small ones. We're reaching out to the Libertarian base and asking for $5 or $10 of your money to help support what's hopefully going to be about a year or two sustained effort in a combination of lobbying, advertising, and public pressure. The website is riverpac.org, RIVERPAC.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Up next, we have Mr. Malagon.
There's a non-LNC member here that'd like to speak, so I'll defer to them.
Okay, Mr. Roos.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the LNC. I just wanted to rise to the occasion of once again, libertarians suing other libertarians, not a good look, and a terrible waste of resources. I hope that all for the consideration of we're in election year, we have a lot of expenses like for ballot access, that we consider other ways of resolving legal disputes, particularly I've sent an email to the LNC earlier this past week about basically how to do that, and I hope the LNC can consider that in the future, at least to not expose the party to too much expense in that region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Back to Mr. Malagon.
I'll go last, Madam Chair, if that's okay.
Sure. I believe we have our secretary and then Mr. Tunjevich.
Thank you. First, I want to thank Mr. Hagopian for his comments about the convention fundraiser. First, I have a specific comment to make. I did not vote in the Michigan $5,000 motion. However, there's been factual inaccuracies I do feel the need to correct. I just know for a fact that Daniel Ziemba, the Secretary of Michigan, did submit the list prior to that lawsuit being even filed. It was submitted to the Credentials Committee. So lawsuits should not be based upon murmur. But I have some general comments to make that aren't specific to Michigan, that have everything to do with everywhere. The nomination of delegates needs to be pursuant to the state party bylaws. If the state party bylaws provides a judicial committee, that judicial committee should be able to render a decision which can be disregarded by the delegates on the convention floor, but the delegates on the convention floor at National have the right to the considered judgment of the internal dispute resolution process, even if they choose to disregard it. Lastly, whether or not something's best attended doesn't matter. We believe in the rights of the smallest majority, which is one person. If one person's rights were violated, it doesn't matter if 10,000 people agree to violate a person's rights and not to hobble any other state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Back to Mr. Malagon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A lot of people ask me, so I just figure I'll address this now. I was, in fact, the 5th grade chess champion for Roosevelt Elementary. I won on a 4-move checkmate, and the opponent that I had against me refused to concede defeat. A judge had to come over to the table, and in the meantime, I pulled out my Game Boy and started playing, and he left in tears. Just wanted to clear that up for everybody because a lot of people had asked me individually.
I think you should provide the IRS filing for that, but thank you.
It'll be in your inbox soon.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our next agenda item. And I believe that is financial discussions. All right, so let me kick this off. I've got several numbers listed in my report. Ms. Kennedy has shared some numbers with us. I've discussed convention committee numbers. We've got repairs to discuss for the Alexandria property. I think what I need to get an idea of is how you guys want to break this down, and then we can decide when we need to go into executive session to discuss what.
What can we? I think we can talk about repairs outside of executive session, I would assume.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we can. It's just going to be quick. I thought there would be more information at this time because
Yeah.
I thought we were going to have the inspection done and it just hasn't happened yet. So, I mean, there's not really that much to discuss other than it needs to happen either way. Again, I did a little bit of research just to kind of get an idea. I assume it's a rubber roof at the top because that's what the neighbors have. And that I looked at what about what the square footage could be, and it seemed to me like it could be somewhere between 7,000 to 12,000. That's a wide gap, but that's kind of, it could be more than that, but I can't imagine it would be too crazy because it's a narrow piece of property. It's like a townhouse basically. Todd?
Yeah, my main question on this is timing. So for example, I think I heard earlier something about $5,000 a month in rent. I believe I heard from somebody.
Yep.
It's obviously a 2-month payback. So if we are short on funds, can this wait until after convention before we start the rental process? In addition, renting out the facility may have impacts if the executive committee and the committee decide to do a loan on the property. Thank you.
We should discuss that a little bit more in executive session so I can really get into it. But I hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just say I would prefer just seeing the leaks in the ceiling. I mean, it's been going on probably for way too long. So I mean, I guess what more is another month or two, but it would be preferable to get it done as soon as we can. I just don't know what that timeline looks like right now.
Any other questions about the rental repair of the Alexandria property?
And also just on the point of 5,000 a month, that's on the very low end. Market rent is higher than that. So we would probably just be getting much more than that. But right now we don't know.
Thank you.
Do you have just somewhat of an estimation, Mr. Watkins?
Yeah, so initially my thought was it was going to be difficult to get a tenant, and it turns out that it doesn't seem to have been that difficult. We do have somebody that really wants to rent it out. They're just not as they're not in as much of a rush as I am, but they
Right.
are very interested. And so my initial thinking was if we lower the rent, because it's a commercial property, most people are working from home anyway. So it would have been easier to get somebody in. But if we can rent it for market rate, it could be, let me see. Last I looked, it was like around 30 a square foot. So per year. So that's like, let's see.
But is Mr. Trump willing to actually pay market rate? That's why I'm concerned. I don't know if you would go over that. I understand that he's going to be taking over headquarters. So
Yeah,
will we
well,
really
he's
get
going to
that much more out of
undervalue
him?
it. So
Right.
Well, he's very
Okay.
good with real estate, so you
So
That's
know.
what I hear.
so let's see. So that market probably somewhere closer to 8 to 10,000 a month. Last I looked at it.
Nice.
Okay. Do we have any more on the building? I'm gonna jump to our secretary.
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of on the building,
Okay, go right ahead though.
but it is also kind of off topic. Just wanted to make it clear that we were all on the same page, because I did have some concerns from the historical committee and then just in general that when in DC, as representative of the historical committee is going to retrieve all of the items that were donated by various members, the button collection, the t-shirt collection, and the statement of principles from the Alexandria building to transport it to the Colorado storage facility so that they don't risk, particularly the statement of principles, being lost or pilfered by a tenant or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page with that stuff would be shipped to the Colorado storage, and I'm going to be personally escorting the statement of principles to the Colorado storage.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anything else you want to discuss outside of executive session?
Madam Chair, yes.
Yes, go right ahead.
I'm concerned if we have quorum.
Oh, okay. Let's do a quorum check.
Okay, I will look at the 1 second here. God, let me stop sharing. It just hides all of my screens, so I'm going to do a roll call vote again. Chair McCardle is here. Mr. Watkins.
Here.
Mr. Hagopian.
Here.
I am here. Mr. Malagon.
Kind of.
Mr. Nikela.
I'm here.
Mr. Rufo.
I'm here.
Ms. Januszkiewicz.
Here.
Mr. Benner.
I'm here.
Mr. Dassing. I think Mr. Dassing.
He's dropped off.
Okay.
But I believe Will is here.
Is Mr. Hyman here?
Mm-hmm.
Will the thrill.
Okay.
I am here, yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yeah.
So we definitely have quorum, but I'm just going to continue with roll call just so we have a record of who's going into executive session. Mr. Heyman?
I'm here.
Ms. Hayes?
I am here.
Mr. Nana?
I'm here.
Mr. Tunyevich?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Alvstead? Okay,
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cowan? I believe Mr. Cowan has dropped off, but we do have Mr. Benner. Mr. Dar?
Present.
Mr. Hirsch?
Here.
Mr. Hyman?
I am here.
Okay, we have more than have quorum. It was just difficult for me to ascertain. So the only drop-offs we have are Mr. Dassing and Mr. Cowan, but those regions are still represented.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to go into executive session to discuss particular financial matters? I'm looking for a little bit of direction on what you guys want to discuss. I know that we want to discuss what we're spending versus what we're bringing in. I imagine that you want to hear about financial projections for this month. Mr. Tunevich?
Convention as well.
Yep.
So, Madam Chair, are we sticking to, the three, the three reasons for being able to go into executive session? So, for example, for discussing the budget, specifically, potentially personnel-related issues would be
Personnel.
one thing, legal-related issues
Legal.
and the legal
Mhm.
budget, two. Are there others? Because I don't want us to go into executive session, kind of go off on this wide-ranging financial
Particular
thing.
contracts and things that people have requested that be kept confidential regarding potential sponsorships and donations.
Sure, contract matters, confidential conversations. I just didn't want it to be a wide-ranging financial discussion. That is
Yeah, I'm trying
outside.
to get some really specific requests before I make any motions. And if there's anything else that people want to discuss publicly, now's a great time.
Thank
I
you.
put a lot in two reports so that the members and the general public can have it. Madam Secretary?
Yeah, and this isn't like a communist blood oath or anything like that, but I'm considering whether I want to participate in executive session. And I can tell you what the reason is. There is allegedly an anonymous director that is threatening to sue the LNC in a Democrat-like way to influence an election, since no case can possibly be heard before the National Convention. One LNC member has specifically denied being part of that suit, and I believe that LNC member in their specific denial. But I would ask if there is any LNC member that's in this meeting that is in fact the party to that lawsuit, that they not be a coward and say who they are. And if the LNC members present are not willing to do that, then I will sit this executive session out and trust the chair to fill me in. I am not exposing myself to personal liability for these stupid political games.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Tunevich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, for the body's information, I'm the person who had notified our officers that I am not a participant in any such alleged lawsuit. But I'd also want to point out the following. We've received, I won't get into the details of it because this might be part of a future legal conversation. We received a letter, a sort of a demand letter, allegedly being, put forward by an anonymous person and, some number of members seeking the chair's removal. Hey, people can write whatever letters they want.
Okay.
The bottom line is we do not have any lawsuit filed against us. There is no,
Thank you, Mr.
no, that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Tunevich. Mr. Malagon?
I have a question for the secretary, which I guess she's, at her leisure, welcome to answer or not. How would you react if no member comes forward, could it also be assumed that that member is no longer here in this meeting?
My question is directed at the members present, and
I see. So I ask, so it was directed at the members present, but if no one here comes forward because they're not the ones threatening the lawsuit, would that influence your decision in any capacity?
Yes, of course, because the executive session has to do with that. But I am asking each member here if they are willing to say that they are not the anonymous person trying to play political games by threatening a lawsuit in an amount of time in which it can't possibly be heard, a la current Democrat tactics against Donald Trump, though Republicans, I am sure, are perfectly willing to engage in the same tactics. I'm just not going to play these reindeer games. I refuse. I think it's cowardly, and I have no respect for cowards.
Sure. So I'll just say, as someone who's very shy and reserved and never really likes to speak my mind, I will break that and say that I am not that LNC member. So everyone can rest easy.
Madam Chair, I object to this kind of questioning of LNC members in this fashion. If the secretary chooses to excuse herself for this session for reasons of her own, I respect that, but that puts no obligation on the rest of the attendees. And do we have a motion to go into executive session yet?
Yeah, we need orders of the day. Madam Secretary?
There's no demand. There's a request.
Okay.
And any LNC member that wishes to answer that request, and Mr. Tunevich already has, and I believe him, I am asking them that request. It's not a demand, it's a request.
Objection
Okay,
again, Madam
no,
Chair. This is
yeah,
not on the agenda.
We're gonna call it. We're gonna stop. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss any of the things I have mentioned regarding finances, regarding personnel, contracts, potential sponsorships, which is, I think, adjacent
Sure.
to the contract?
I will make that motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there going to be any amendments to this motion? Hear them now. I think I lost staff. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for purposes of discussing our finances with relation to personnel, contracts, potential sponsorships. And I'd also add that some of that's going to relate to whether or not we want to pull out a line of credit. Any objections?
Yes, I absolutely object. I think it's irresponsible of the LNC to go into executive session without knowing who's trying to sue them.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we've got an objection, so I think that we're gonna need to, well, there can be further discussion on it, but we're gonna eventually go to a vote on it.
Call the question, Madam Chair.
I think Dustin Nana had his hand up before you called the question. I'm gonna hear him and then assume that you called the question after. Mr. Nana?
I'm happy to defer to the question being called. That's fine.
Okay. Question's been called. We're gonna go to a vote on whether or not we're going into executive session.
Give me one second to set up the ballot.
Take your time.
So the motion is on calling the question.
Yes.
Okay, 1 second.
Oh, no, wait, sorry, hold on.
There
Is
was no
anybody-
objection to the question being called. This would
Yeah.
be.
Is there any
unless I missed
objection?
something.
Yes.
Yeah, the secretary objected, so this is.
Wait, slow down. The secretary objected to going into executive session.
I object to calling the question too, because I'd
Okay.
like LNC members the opportunity to deny that they're suing the LNC.
Okay, got it.
Oh, I see. My mistake.
Got it. Okay, she's objected to calling the question, so we're gonna go to a vote on calling the question, and then we're gonna potentially discuss whether or not we go into executive session before we vote on that.
Who moved? That was Mr. Tunevich, correct?
Yes.
So this is on calling the question. Mr. Benna,
No.
Mr. Blankenship's not here. Mr. Dessing is not here. Mr. Ford.
Madam
Madam Chair,
Secretary?
Madam Chair, could you again specify what the motion is, please?
Yes,
Or-
and Madam Secretary, are you able to put it on the screen for us?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I stopped sharing.
That's okay. Mr. Ford, this is on whether or not we're calling a question. So this is basically, are we gonna discuss,
Thank you. Yes, we'll call the question.
okay.
Mr. Hagopian,
No.
Mr. Heyman.
No.
I'm going to vote no. Ms. Hayes,
No.
Mr. Malagon,
Nay.
Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
No.
Mr. Tunevich,
Yes.
Mr. Dar,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
No.
Ms. Yanuskavich.
No.
Nobody was skipped. Madam Chair, you can cause a tie.
Wait, Madam
Wait,
Secretary, I'm sorry,
slow
Mr.
down.
Hyman didn't vote. Mr. Hyman's here. Mr. Dessing may
Oh.
not be, but Mr. Hyman did not vote.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Hyman, I am so sorry.
It is quite all right, Madam Secretary. I vote yes.
Okay. Hold on. I am so there are 9 no's, 6 yeses. If the chair voted yes, the yeses still aren't twice the no's.
They're
and
not.
Right, so it
2/3.
doesn't pass in any event.
Yeah. So the question is not called.
You're abstaining, Madam Chair?
Yeah, my vote is not going to make a difference here. Okay, motion fails. I see hands up. Mr. Malagon?
Since we're still in discussion, I will once again reiterate that I am not threatening to sue the LNC, and I would encourage my colleagues to come forward and be so bold as to also claim that they're not trying to sue the LNC if they're so inclined.
Thank you, Mr. Malagon. Mr. Nana?
I am not currently suing the LNC or intend to sue the LNC, except for potentially for cruel and unusual punishment for trapping me in long meetings.
Yes. Thank you, Mr.
Guilty.
Nana. Mr. Rufo?
I am not suing the LNC, nor will I. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rufo. Mr. Hagopian?
I am not suing the LNC, nor will I.
Thank you, Mr. Tunievich?
I object to this proceeding. It is not part of the agenda, and I think it's a shame we're trying to put members on the spot like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tunievich.
I think it's a shame somebody on this board is trying to sue us and still go into this session.
All right, let's.
Hear, hear.
And who would that be?
Okay,
Who would that?
guys, let's just go by hands raised, and it's discussion. And although it's uncomfortable, it's perfectly within reason to discuss this when we're talking about going into executive session. And people have raised in debate that they're uncomfortable going into executive session because they don't want to be having confidential conversations with people who are litigious. It is in order, it is just uncomfortable. Mr. Benner.
I want to go on the record in public and say that I am not suing the LNC, nor do I intend to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benner. Mr. Watkins?
No, I'm not suing the LNC. It's dumb and a waste of time.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Ms. Yanuskavich?
I'm not suing the LNC, nor do I intend to.
Thank you, Ms. Yanuskavich. Mr. Ford?
I swear on my sacred oath that I am not participating in any Kaczynski-like messianic word salad lawsuits.
Thank you. Mr. Heyman?
As a poker player, I'm normally loath to reveal my hole cards, but no, I'm not suing the LNC, nor will I.
Thank you, Mr. Heyman. Mr. Dar?
I am not suing the LNC. I'm not pledged to sue to the LNC. I feel that lawsuits are a failure to be able to talk things out.
Thank you, Mr. Dar. Ms. Hayes?
I am not suing the LNC. Do not plan to sue the LNC. My personal professional opinion, based on my brief review of the law, is that a derivative lawsuit would fail miserably. That's just my opinion. I just want to say I understand Mr. Chunyevich's concern that this is some sort of inquisition, putting people on the spot. However, if somebody was to be suing us and we go into an executive session, we are essentially having an attorney-client privilege-like conversation with somebody who does not have the right to that information. It would be incredibly stupid, and it makes no sense. So I echo Ms. Harlow's opinion. I want to know, especially if you're going to send a demand letter, how are you going to demand something if I don't know who I'm talking to or who I'm talking about? So that's just my personal and somewhat professional opinion. Again, I don't practice in DC, but it is what it is.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. I'm also not suing the LNC. Spoiler alert. Madam Secretary.
I'd like Mr. Hirsch to go ahead of me.
Okay, Mr. Hirsch.
I have no intention nor desire to ever sue the LNC. I've been around for since 2001. I mean, shit, the Libertarian Party is my life. Thank
you, Mr. Hirsch. Madam Secretary?
I withdraw my objection to executive session.
Oh, thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Malagon?
I don't really care for Ms. Hayes' legal opinion. I mean, she's just a lawyer. What does that mean? But I will just add to my initial comment that I do not intend to sue the LNC in the future. Everyone kind of added that on to my initial thing. So just want to make it clear, I have no intention to sue the LNC in the future either, nor am I doing so now.
Thank you, Mr. Malagon. Okay,
Pardon me, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate that I've already notified our officers in writing that I'm not suing the LNC. Thank you.
certainly.
And Madam Chair, I had specifically noted that I absolutely believe Mr.
Correct.
Tunievich.
Correct. I don't think that anything was particularly pointed at Mr. Tunievich by you.
No, he joined the blood oath. Good for him.
You can understand, Madam Chair, the reason why, given my prior 2 exclusions from executive sessions of the executive committee, why I might have some concerns. So hopefully that letter assuaged those concerns. Thank you.
Yes, and I think, quite frankly, that it was good that you sent it. Now,
I thank Mr. Tunievich for very clearly answering
Yes.
the question.
do we want to go back to, we're going to revisit our motion to go into executive session. I believe the secretary withdrew her objection. Is that correct?
Yep, I have no objection.
Are there any other objections to going into executive session? We're discussing our finances regarding personnel, contracts, including potential sponsorships, and one other thing that I can't remember, and it's related to our whether or not we're going to pull out a line of credit.
Well, that might impact personnel, because that's a funding thing. It could impact contracts, but any discussion having to do with the credit line that doesn't impact those 2 has to take place outside of
Correct.
executive session.
Correct. But I think it's important to fully flesh out why we're going in and why we would even be discussing personnel and other things in the first place. And it's related to finances, and ultimately it's going to have to do with whether or not we want to pull out this line of credit. All right. Any objections? Going once, going twice? Hearing none. All right, we're going to go into executive session. Madam Secretary, do you want us to go into a breakout room?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. I'm going to stop recording. Pause.
Whoa, we both hit it.